Chapter 1, The Grape That Changed Everything. Let it be known across all of heaven, hell, and whatever weird middle bit exists between them, the death of Sebastian Sabas Ashford was the single most pathetic thing anyone in the afterlife had ever witnessed. And these people once watched a man lose a custody battle to a goose. Sabas was 24. Average height. Average face. Dangerously below average survival instincts. The kind of guy who'd microwave aluminium foil just to see what happened. Google "Am I dead?" after stubbing his toe, and once tried to pet a wasp because it looked lonely. He had one friend. It was a parrot. The parrot didn't even like him. On the night of his tragic, embarrassing, Wikipedia-unworthy death, Sabas was doing three things. Watching a documentary about anglerfish that he did not understand and wasn't bothered to even try to understand. Arguing aggressively with his roommate's parrot, Gregory, about whether grapes were a top-tier fruit. Losing. Badly. "You're wrong, Gregory," Sabas said, standing up from the couch and pointing a grape at the bird like a prosecutor delivering a closing argument. "Grapes are the pinnacle of fruit evolution. They come in bunches, Gregory. Bunches. Name one other fruit with that kind of squad mentality." "You can't." Gregory the parrot blinked. "Exactly. Nothing. You've got nothing. Grapes are nature's candy and you sit there on your little wooden stick saying nothing because you know I'm right." Gregory said nothing because, and this is important, he was a parrot. But Sabas was on a roll now. He was in the zone. He was one Red Bull away from writing a full TED talk about grape supremacy. And in his moment of ultimate victory, he decided to do what every man with more confidence than brain cells eventually does. He tossed a grape into the air to catch it in his mouth. Cool guys did this. Movie guys did this. Athletes on Instagram did this. Sabas was none of these things. Sabas was a man who once walked into a glass door at a shopping center and apologized to it. The grape went up. The grape came down. The grape hit the back of his throat, took one look around, and said, "This is my home now." It lodged. Perfectly. Like the grape had trained for this moment its entire life on the vine. Sabas grabbed his throat. His eyes went wide. He stumbled left. Hit the coffee table. The coffee table hit the lamp. The lamp hit the floor. He tripped over a shoe, his shoe, which had been sitting in the middle of the room for 3 days because putting it away was tomorrow's problem. Tomorrow would not come for Sabas. He crashed into the wall, slid down it like a sad cartoon, and landed on the floor face first. With his last fading moments of consciousness, he turned his head toward Gregory. Gregory stared at him with cold, black, judgmental eyes. Then Gregory said loudly, with full human pronunciation that should not have been possible, "Skill issue. Sabas died. Right there. On the floor. At 7:43 p.m. on a Tuesday. Taken out by a single green grape worth approximately 0.03 pence. No witnesses except a parrot that could apparently speak English when it felt like being disrespectful. The paramedics arrived 40 minutes later because Gregory, shockingly, did not call 999. The official report read, "Cause of death, asphyxiation via fruit." His mum would tell the family he died in his sleep. Peacefully. Like an angel. He died on his face next to a shoe. Like a muppet. Sabas opened his eyes. This was a problem, because dead people generally don't do that. He was standing in a room. If you could call it a room. It looked like someone had described the concept of an office to an alien who had never seen one, and the alien had tried its best and failed. White walls. Flickering ceiling light that buzzed like it was personally angry. A single desk that looked like it was made of sadness and cheap wood. A motivational poster on the wall that just said "Don't." Behind the desk sat Rob. Now, Rob, random omnipotent being, as he insisted on being called that because the upper brace is corporate and I'm a freelancer. Looked like a man who had been doing this job for 9 billion years and had emotionally checked out roughly 8 billion years ago. His suit was so wrinkled it looked like he'd slept in it. Not once. Every single night since the dawn of creation. His tie was loosened to the point of being decorative. He had bags under his eyes so heavy they needed their own postcode. He was holding a mug that said "World's Okayest Deity" and there was something in it that was absolutely not coffee. He did not look up when Sabas appeared. Didn't even bother greeting him. He just sighed. A long, deep, ancient sigh. The kind of sigh that carried the weight of every stupid death he'd ever had to process, and brother, there had been many. Too fucking many. Name. Rob said, in a voice so flat it could be used as a spirit level. Sebastian. Sabas. Ashford. Cause of death. Sabas shifted, tilting his face away. Medical emergency. Rob's pen stopped moving. He painfully slowly looked up from his paperwork. His left eye twitched. It says here. Rob said, reading from a file, that you choked on a grape. That is a medical emergency. While arguing with a parrot. He was being unreasonable. The parrot said skill issue as you died. Gregory is a hater and a liar. The parrot can't talk, Sebastian. Then explain what I heard. Moving on. Rob slammed the file shut with the energy of a teacher who's 5 minutes from retirement. He reached into his desk, pulled open a drawer full of glowing orbs, and slid one across the desk. What's that? Sabas asked. Your ability. Standard reincarnation package. Every soul gets one power. You take the orb, you get a power, you go live another life somewhere, and I never have to see you again. That last part is very important to me. Personally. What power do I get? Don't know. Don't care. It's random. Touch the orb and leave. Sabas reached out and touched the orb. It cracked. Which was not supposed to happen. Then it shattered. Which was really not supposed to happen. Then every single orb in the drawer, hundreds of them, glowing like tiny angry suns, launched themselves at Sabas like he was a magnet, and they were very enthusiastic paperclips. They hit him one after another, thwack 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 thwack, slamming into his chest in a rapid-fire light show that looked absolutely spectacular and felt like being run over by a lorry made of pure sunshine. Sabas stood there, glowing like a human lamp, smoke curling off his shoulders, hair standing straight up, one shoe somehow missing. Rob's mug slipped out of his hand. It hit the desk. Whatever was inside splashed across 400 years of unsorted paperwork. He didn't notice. He didn't care. His eyes were wide. His mouth was open. For the first time in 9 billion years, the random omnipotent being who had processed more souls than there were stars in the sky, who had seen every possible way a human could die, live and die again, was completely, utterly, catastrophically frozen. The drawer was empty. Every orb. Every power. Every ability meant for thousands, possibly millions of souls. All of them. Inside this man. This grape choking, parrot arguing, shoe tripping, documentary watching catastrophe of a human being. What? Rob whispered. His eye twitched. They. His other eye twitched. Fuck. He stood up so fast his chair flew back and hit the motivational poster. The poster fell off the wall. He slammed both hands on the desk. He looked at the empty drawer. He looked at Sabas. He looked at the empty drawer again. His brain was doing the math on exactly how many cosmic laws had just been broken, and the answer was all of them. Then, like a switch had been flipped, Rob straightened his tie. Smoothed his suit. Sat back down. Picked up his mug, which was now empty, and pretended to take a sip. Completely composed. Totally fine. Not a single problem here. Was that supposed to happen? Sabas asked, still smoking slightly. Yes, Rob lied, without a single ounce of hesitation. Flawless delivery. Oscar-worthy. That was completely intentional. You now have every power in existence. All of them. Congratulations. You're welcome. Get out. Wait, every power? Like all of them. Flight. Super strength. Time manipulation. Reality warping. Immortality. The ability to make toast without a toaster. All of them. Now leave before I change my mind. That last one isn't real. Do you want me to take them back? No. Then leave. Rob snapped his fingers. A hole opened in the floor beneath Sabaz's feet, a swirling, glowing vortex of light and chaotic energy that screamed, "You're going somewhere and you have zero say in where." Wait, where am I going? Sabaz yelled as he fell. Somewhere that isn't here. Goodbye forever. I hope. Sabaz plummeted into the void, screaming, glowing, and still missing one shoe. Rob sat in silence. The office was quiet. The flickering light buzzed. The paperwork stain from his mug was slowly spreading across a file labeled "Important, do not spill on." Rob stared at the empty drawer. He stared at the ceiling. He clasped his hands together. Praying. I'm so fucked, he said, with the calm, quiet acceptance of a man who knows with absolute certainty that this is going to be a problem. A massive, multiverse-shaking, reality-bending problem. And it was wearing one shoe and had the survival instincts of a sleepy hamster. Then Gregory the parrot appeared on his desk. Rob looked at the parrot. The parrot looked at Rob. Skill issue, said Gregory. Rob threw his mug at the wall. Chapter 2, Volcano Boy gets a new friend. Sabaz was falling. Through a void that smelled like burnt toast and existential regret. He'd been alive for roughly 45 seconds in his new super-duper strong existence, and he'd already spent 40 of those seconds screaming. The other 5 were spent thinking about whether Gregory the parrot missed him. Gregory did in fact not miss him. Then the void spat him out like garbage and Sabaz found himself plummeting through solid concrete. Not into concrete. Through it. Through a ceiling. Then another ceiling. Then another. Each floor of whatever building he was falling through offered him a brief glimpse of confused civilians before he smashed through the next one like a human cannonball with no plan and one shoe. Floor 1 office. A man holding coffee watched Sabaz fall past him. The coffee was no longer in the mug. It was on the man. Floor B1, some kind of commercial area. A woman screamed. Sabaz screamed back. He just felt it was polite to match the energy. Floor B2, pipes. Floor B3, more pipes. Floor B4, darkness and a bad vibe. Floor B5, Fukudoshin Line platform, Shibuya Station. Sabaz hit the train tracks like a meteor wearing one shoe. The ground cracked. Dust exploded outward. A shockwave rattled the platform. Somewhere, a vending machine fell over. He lay in the crater for a moment, face down, arms spread, vibing. Ow, he said, even though nothing hurt. It was a spiritual ow. He lifted his head. And walked directly into the single most intense moment in Jujutsu history. Here is what Sabaz did not know. He did not know that 10 minutes ago, Gojo saw Toru, the strongest sorcerer alive, the man whose eyes could see the fabric of cursed energy itself, the walking natural disaster with white hair and a personality that made everyone simultaneously want to punch him and protect him, had fought 4 special-grade cursed spirits at once. And won. He did not know that Gojo had exorcised Hanami by crushing the tree spirit into the wall like someone squishing a bug on a window. He did not know that Gojo had activated his domain expansion for 0.2 seconds and incapacitated every single person and curse on the platform. He did not know that Gojo had then spent the next 299 seconds, roughly 5 minutes, systematically killing every single transfigured human in the station while the cursed spirits lay stunned. Over 1,000 of them. Alone. While exhausted. Like a man doing the dishes after cooking a 7-course meal for people who didn't even say thank you. He did not know that after all of that, after the fighting, the domain, the 5 minutes of non-stop murder, Gojo had finally stopped. Breathing hard. Guard slightly down. For the first time in the entire night, the strongest sorcerer was tired. He did not know that this was the exact moment Kenjaku had been waiting for. A small cube had appeared behind Gojo. The prison realm. A fleshy, horrible thing with a massive bleeding eye that opened and locked onto Gojo like a cursed security camera. And then from the shadows of the platform a familiar figure had stepped forward. Geto Suguru. Or rather, the body of Geto Suguru, being worn by the ancient curse user Kenjaku like a second-hand jacket. Stitched forehead. That smile. That horrible, knowing, 1,000-year-old smile. Gojo had frozen. Not because of a technique. Not because of a binding vow. Because standing in front of him was his best friend. The man he had watched die. The man he had killed. And for one moment, one single, devastating moment, Gojo's brain stopped being the brain of the strongest sorcerer alive and started being the brain of a man who missed his friend. 1 minute passed inside his head. Memories of high school. Of laughter. Of a bond that had broken the world. The prison realm took hold. The fleshy mass surged forward and latched onto Gojo, wrapping around his body, dragging him downward. His cursed energy gone. His techniques sealed. The strongest sorcerer in the world, trapped by a cube and a memory. Kenjaku smiled. Yago watched, satisfied. Mahito giggled like the freak he was. Choso stood silently, blood-related issues on his mind as always. The seal was nearly complete. Gojo's body was being pulled in. The most devastating moment in the history of Jujutsu sorcery was happening right now, right here, on this platform. And then some guy with one shoe climbed out of a crater in the train tracks and said, "Yo, gang! Where am I at?" Silence. Not the normal kind. The kind of silence where the universe pauses to make sure it heard correctly. Sabas stood at the edge of the platform, dust in his hair, one shoe on, one shoe in another dimension, shirt torn, looking around the underground station like a tourist who got off at the wrong stop. He looked left. Broken pillars. Unconscious civilians. Rubble. Fire damage. He looked right. More rubble. A dented vending machine. What appeared to be scorch marks on literally everything. He looked forward. A very tall, very pretty man with white hair was currently being eaten by some kind of fleshy cube monster. The man's eyes, impossibly blue, even behind the tattered remains of a blindfold, were wide with confusion. Because even in the process of being sealed inside a cursed pocket dimension, Gojo Satoru's brain had enough bandwidth to think, who the fuck is that? Next to the cube stood a man with long black hair and stitches across his forehead, smiling like someone who had just completed a 1,000-year plan and was very pleased with himself. Behind him, a short angry volcano with legs. A blue-grey patchwork dude who looked like he'd been assembled by a toddler with clay. And a goth-looking guy with blood under his eyes who seemed like he was going through something personal. Sabas processed none of this. "Yo," he said again, waving with one hand. "Is this Shibuya? I was trying to get to a Tesco." Nobody responded. Kenjaku's smile flickered. In 1,000 years of planning, across hundreds of bodies, through wars and betrayals and schemes that spanned centuries, not once had he factored in random shoeless man falls through ceiling and asking for directions to a Tesco. "Who?" Kenjaku started, his voice still carrying that silky, ancient confidence, but with a new undertone of "What is happening, are you?" Sabas opened his mouth to answer. Took one step forward. And ate it. His one remaining shoe, the left one, the cursed survivor of the rob incident, found a patch of blood on the platform floor, thanks, Choso, and decided that grip was for quitters. Sabaz's foot went forward. His body went backward. His arms windmilled. He made a noise, a horrible, undignified noise, somewhere between a goose and a man falling downstairs, and slammed onto his back so hard the platform cracked a second time. Right in front of Gojo. Right in front of Kenjaku. Right in front of every cursed spirit on the platform. During the sealing of the strongest sorcerer in the world. He just lay there. On his back. Staring up at the ceiling he'd fallen through. 5 neat holes, 1 per floor, leading all the way up to the night sky. I meant to do that, Sabaz whispered. Gojo saw Toru half-sealed inside the prison realm, body being consumed by a cursed flesh cube, in the middle of arguably the worst moment of his entire life, looked down at Sabaz. And snorted. The kind of snort you make when something is so stupid your body bypasses your brain entirely and just reacts. Pfft. Kenjaku's eye twitched. Did you just laugh? Kenjaku said, his ancient composure cracking for the first time in roughly 4 centuries. No, Gojo lied, still being sealed. Something was in my throat. Yago had seen enough. He didn't know who this human was. He didn't care. They were in the middle of the most important operation in cursed spirit history, the sealing of Gojo Satoru, the one obstacle between cursed spirits and true dominance over humanity, and some random monkey had fallen through the ceiling, asked for a Tesco, slipped on blood, and made the strongest sorcerer laugh during his own sealing. This was going beyond disrespect. I'll handle this, Yago said, stepping forward, his volcanic head flickering with barely contained fury. This insect? Ooh, a talking candle, Sabaz said from the floor, not getting up. Wicked. Will be reduced to ash. Yago raised his hand. Cursed flames erupted, concentrated, furious, the kind of fire that melts steel and turns bone to memory. He didn't hold back. He didn't need to. This was a regular human. This would take less than a second. This was beneath him, but he was going to enjoy it anyway because this human had just called him a talking candle. He fired. Direct hit. The explosion ripped through the platform and sent debris flying in every direction. Dust and smoke billowed outward like a volcanic eruption fitting. The heat warped the air for 50 meters in every direction. Mahito shielded his face. Choso didn't bother. Kenjaku watched with mild disinterest. Any normal human would have been vaporized. Not just dead. Gone. Erased. Not enough left to fill an urn. The smoke cleared. Sabaz was still on the floor. Same position. On his back. Arms behind his head now, like he was stargazing. His shirt was slightly warm. Hey, Sabaz said, patting his chest. Toasty. Yago's single eye went so wide it looked like it was trying to leave his face. What? Sabaz sat up. Stretched. Yawned. He looked at Yago. Really looked at him. Tilted his head left. Then right. Squinted. Yo. Sabaz said slowly, standing up and circling Yago like a man examining a really ugly ornament at a car boot sale. Why is there a weird-looking goofy dwarf here? The words landed like a domain expansion to Yago's ego. His flames sputtered. His fists clenched. His single eye twitched so hard it looked like it was buffering. Even Mahito, the most annoying creature in existence, went oh damn under his breath. I am Jogo, the cursed spirit seethed, heat rising off him in visible waves. A special grade cursed SP. Nah, because hold on, Sabaz interrupted, leaning in uncomfortably close to Yago's face. What are you though? Genuinely. Like, are you a candle? A angry little volcano from one of them kids' science projects? The baking soda and vinegar ones? Because you've got that energy. That energy of a papier-mâché mountain in a primary school that didn't win the fair. I will burn you too. You look like if someone microwaved a garden gnome and it came out mad about it. You look like a Yankee candle that gained sentience and chose violence. Stop. You look like if Mount Vesuvius was 5'2" and had anger management issues. Yago screamed. Just a raw, primal, volcanic scream of a being who had existed for centuries and had never been this disrespected by someone. Kenjaku, for the first time in 1,000 years, did not know what to do. Gojo, still being sealed, was shaking. From trying not to laugh. And then mid-thought, mid-chaos, mid-everything Sabas tilted his head and said. You know what would be kind of funny? The world stopped. Everything. All of it. Frozen. Like someone had pressed pause on the universe's remote and gone to make a cup of tea. Yago's flames frozen mid-flicker. Kenjaku's unsettled expression locked in place. Mahito's stupid grin paused. Choso's brooding on hold. Gojo, mid-seal, caught between dimensions completely still. The prison realm's fleshy mass motionless. A piece of rubble that had been falling just hung there in the air like it forgot what gravity was. Sabas stood in the middle of all of it, hands on his hips, one shoe on, thinking. Right, he said aloud, to nobody, because everyone was frozen. So this angry little garden gnome volcano fella wants to fight. And I could just flick him into the sun. Easy. Boring. I didn't get every power in existence to be boring. He paced around Yago's frozen form. Leaned in close. Flicked his frozen volcanic head. It made a little ting sound. What if? Sabas said, grinning the grin of a man who was about to do something profoundly unnecessary, I give this guy a real fight. He paused. Something. From Minecraft. He paused again. First thing that came to mind. We're going with it. WWMD. He snapped his fingers. Reality cracked around his hands like glass. I'm gonna make a zombie. Beat. Not just any zombie. The zombie. The zombie that God himself would look at and say that's a bit much, innit? The zombie equivalent of bringing a nuclear warhead to a pillow fight. He reached into the fabric of reality casually, like reaching into the pocket of a jacket he hadn't worn in a while and pulled. A Minecraft zombie materialized in the middle of Shibuya Station's Fukudoshin Line platform. 6 feet tall. Green skin. Dead eyes. That classic, haunting, beautiful groan. Uuuuuh. It stood there. Arms outstretched. One brain cell bouncing around inside its blocky skull like a DVD screensaver that never hits the corner. Beautiful, Sabas said, wiping a fake tear. But naked. And I don't send my boys out naked. He waved his hand. Full netherite armor appeared piece by piece. Helmet dark as a black hole's browser history. Chest plate forged in the literal depths of hell. Leggings dripping with I am not here to negotiate energy. Boots for stomping and nothing else. All enchanted gear. The zombie looked like the final boss of a game that hadn't been invented yet. Better. But we're not done. Not even close. Because I want this man, he pointed at frozen Yago, to suffer. Not physically. Emotionally. I want him to fight something he literally cannot kill, and I want him to slowly realize that fact over the course of several hours. Sabas reached into reality again and pulled out 10 rings. Not any rings. Dark Souls rings. The most absurdly defensive jewelry stack in gaming history. He began putting them on the zombie's fingers like a man proposing to chaos itself. Ring of steel protection. Click. Physical damage absorption. For when Volcano Boy punches you and hurts his own fist. Magic stone plate ring. Click. Magic absorption. Just in case. Flame stone plate ring. Click. He looked directly at frozen Yago. This one's for you, Science Fair Volcano. This one is personal. I want you to hit this zombie with your best fire attack, and I want the zombie to yawn. Thunderstone plate ring. Click. Lightning absorption. Nobody here uses lightning, but I believe in being prepared. Dark stone plate ring. Click. Dark absorption. Because overkill is underrated. Speckled stone plate ring. Click. This one boosts magic, fire, lightning, and dark absorption. Belt and suspenders and a third belt, baby. Spell quartz ring. Click. Even more magic absorption. At this point I'm just being rude. Flame quartz ring. Click. Even more fire resistance. I want this zombie to swim in lava and ask for bath toys. Thunder quartz ring. Click. More lightning absorption. This is art now. I'm an artist. Dark quartz ring. Click. And that's 10. Full set. Every finger drippy. This zombie is wearing more jewelry than a rapper at an awards show. Sabas stepped back. Admired his creation. A full netherite Minecraft zombie with 10 Dark Souls rings stacked on its rotting fingers. It looked like the physical manifestation of "this is unfair and I do not care." Not enough. Because of course it wasn't enough. This was Sabas. Half measures were for people who wore both shoes. Resistance 4. A golden shimmer washed over the zombie. Its netherite armor pulsed. Every type of incoming damage was now reduced to a light suggestion. A polite request. A damage post-it note that the zombie would read and ignore. Regeneration V. A second shimmer. Pink particles floated around the zombie like cursed confetti. Any damage that somehow made it through the netherite, the 10 rings, and the resistance 4 would be healed so fast that the damage itself would file a complaint with the universe for wasting its time. Sabas looked at his creation. An immortal. Unkillable. Absolutely brainless. Walking. Netherite, fully enchanted. Tank. With 10 rings of pure defensive absurdity. Resistance 4. Regeneration V. 1 brain cell. 0 mercy. The survival instinct of a cockroach and the intelligence of a brick, but unkillable. One last thing, Sabas whispered, leaning in close to the zombie's ear. You see that ugly volcano head dwarf over there? He pointed at Yago. The goofy little angry one that looks like a melted action figure. The zombie's dead, empty, soulless eyes slowly mechanically rotated toward Yago. "Uhuh," said the zombie. "Chase him. Never stop. Don't think not that you can. Don't eat. Don't sleep. Don't look at anything else. Just chase that angry little fire-headed freak until the sun explodes or I get bored. Whichever comes first. That is your only purpose. Your entire existence. Your reason for being. You are a heat-seeking missile shaped like a dead man in armor. Go." The zombie groaned in what Sabas chose to interpret as enthusiastic agreement. "Good talk," Sabas said, patting its netherite chest plate. "Make me proud, son." He stepped back. Cracked his neck. Unfroze time. The world snapped back like a rubber band. Yago's flames resumed. Kenjaku's face finished being unsettled. Mahito's grin completed its cycle. Choso continued brooding. Gojo continued being sealed. Everything was exactly as it was one frozen moment ago, except now there was a 6-foot Minecraft zombie in full netherite armor standing 3 feet in front of Yago, staring at him with the empty, hollow, unblinking intensity of something that had been given one job and was going to do it until the heat death of the universe. "Uhuh," said the zombie. Yago blinked. "What is?" The zombie lunged. With the Yankee, arms outstretched, head forward sprint of a Minecraft mob that had spotted its target and was now operating on pure, undiluted, single brain cell aggression. Directly at Yago. What the Yago blasted it with fire. The zombie walked through it. The flame stone plate ring glowed. The flame quartz ring glowed. The speckled stone plate ring glowed. The netherite armor didn't even get warm. The zombie's expression did not change because it did not have expressions. It had one face, and that face said, "I am coming for you and I do not know how to stop." "Fh," said the zombie, still sprinting. Yago hit it again. Harder. Full power. An eruption that shook the entire platform. The zombie's health bar flickered. Regeneration V healed it before the flicker finished. The zombie didn't slow down. Didn't flinch. Didn't acknowledge that it had just been hit with an attack that could level a city block. It just kept coming. "What is this thing?" Yago screamed, backing up for the first time in his entire existence. Sabas sat on the edge of the platform, legs dangling over the tracks, watching. Art. Chapter 3, Yago gets a besto friendo he didn't ask for. Gojo got sealed. Like, fully sealed. Cube closed. Gone. The strongest sorcerer in the world packed into a box like IKEA furniture. Kenjaku said gate close with the smuggest smile in human history, and the prison realm snapped shut. Sabas watched the whole thing from the platform edge, legs dangling, eating a bag of crisps he'd manifested from thin air. "Damn," he said, mouth full. "That's tough." Kenjaku picked up the cube. Or tried to. The prison realm slammed itself into the ground so hard the entire platform shook. Kenjaku stumbled. The cube didn't budge. It sat there like it weighed more than the earth itself, multiple eyes opening across its surface, all of them looking angry. "Ah," Kenjaku said, composure cracking for exactly half a second. "He's being difficult." "Your box is throwing a tantrum," Sabas observed. Kenjaku ignored him. He had a 1,000-year plan to worry about. He was not going to engage with the shoeless man eating crisps. Meanwhile the zombie was chasing Yago. In theory. In practice, the zombie was doing the Minecraft walk. You know the one. Arms straight out. Legs moving at the speed of a Nan going to the shops. No urgency. No hurry. Just step, 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 toward Yago with all the intensity of a man walking to the fridge at 2 a.m. "Fh," said the zombie. Yago stood 30 feet away, staring at it. "That's it," Yago said. "That's your creation? It moves like it's walking through custard." Even Mahito laughed. "It's so slow. It's actually kind of sad." The zombie took one more step. Then another. Its netherite boots made a little clonk 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 sound on the platform. Slow. Steady. Absolutely pathetic. Sabas looked at his zombie. Then at Yago. Then back at his zombie. "Yeah, now that is slow in it," Sabas muttered. He raised one finger. Speed 20. The zombie vanished. Not disappeared. Vanished. One frame it was doing the grandma shuffle. The next frame it was a netherite blur moving at what could only be described as completely unreasonable velocity. The sound barrier didn't break, it shattered. A sonic boom ripped through the platform. Debris flew. Wind smashed outward in every direction. Mahito's hair went sideways. Choso's blood floated. Kenjaku's robes flapped violently. The zombie crossed 30 feet in approximately 0 seconds and slammed into Yago like a freight train wearing armor. "Fh," said the zombie, at Mach 2. Yago went through a pillar. Then another pillar. Then a wall. Then he stopped because the wall behind that wall was thicker. "Oh," Sabas said. "Maybe that was too much speed." He thought about it. Nah. Yago pulled himself out of the rubble, flames erupting off his body. His single eye was twitching. His volcano head was literally smoking extra. "What did you just?" The zombie was already in front of him again. It threw a punch. Slowly. Like. So slowly. It was Mach 2 on the legs, but the arms were still base Minecraft zombie speed. The fist came toward Yago's face like it was moving through honey. Yago had time to read a book, make dinner, and file his taxes before the punch landed. It connected. Bonk. Did that thing just bonk me? Yago said. The zombie pulled its fist back. Wound up. Threw another punch. Bonk. Uhuh. Bonk. Stop that. Bonk. Stop. Bonk bonk bonk. Sabas watched. The zombie had the attack speed of a sloth on sedatives. It was throwing punches like an old man swatting at a fly he couldn't quite see. Each hit landed with the devastating force of a light tap. Yo, Sabas said. My boy's hands are slow. He raised a finger again. Haste 10. The zombie's arms became a blur. If Speed 20 turned its legs into a jet engine, Haste 10 turned its fists into a machine gun. The zombie locked onto Yago and started swinging, not with skill, not with technique, not with any form of martial intelligence whatsoever, just raw, mindless, turbocharged flailing. Bonk 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 bonk. Yago was getting pelted. 50 punches a second. 100. Each one hitting with the force of an airsoft pellet. Not enough to hurt. Not even close. But absolutely, categorically, without question enough to be the most annoying thing Yago had ever experienced in his centuries of existence. Stop, ow, that doesn't ow even hurt, ow, but stop, ow 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 ow. It was like being attacked by an aggressive hailstorm made of netherite fists. Each individual hit did basically nothing. But there were so many of them. It was death by 1,000 taps. It was the physical equivalent of someone poking you in the shoulder non-stop forever. Yago blasted the zombie with fire. The fire hit the zombie and the zombie's health bar moved by exactly 0.00016%. Regeneration V healed it before the number finished displaying. The zombie did not slow down. The zombie did not flinch. The zombie did not acknowledge that it had been hit at all. Bonk 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 bonk. Uhuh. Bonk 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 bonk. Sabas manifested a bucket of popcorn. The big cinema kind. Extra butter. He sat cross-legged on the platform, one shoe on, watching Yago, a special grade cursed spirit who had fought Gojo Satoru, get airsoft D to death by a Minecraft zombie in Dark Souls jewelry. This is absolute cinema, Sabas said, shoving popcorn into his mouth. Yago tried punching back. Full power. A cursed energy-infused fist that could crater a building. It connected. The zombie's health bar barely flickered. Regeneration V topped it off like nothing happened. He tried Maximum Meteor. His strongest technique. A miniature sun. The zombie stood in the middle of it. Netherite glowing. Rings glowing. Health bar moved 0.00016% and healed instantly. Uhuh, said the zombie, walking out of the explosion like it was a light drizzle. Bonk 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 bonk. Yago tried grabbing the zombie. The zombie was faster. Yago tried running. The zombie was speed. Yago tried flying upward. The zombie jumped because Minecraft zombies can jump one block, and with speed 20, one block became launched itself 40 feet into the air like a netherite missile. Bonk 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 bonk. I cannot kill this thing, Yago screamed to no one in particular. No shit, Sherlock, Sabas called from his seat, eating popcorn. Kenjaku watched from beside the prison realm cube, his face doing something it had never done in 1,000 years, genuine confusion. Mahito was recording. He didn't have a phone. Nobody knows how he was recording. But he was. Choso just stood there, arms crossed, watching. This wasn't his business. He had blood-related family issues to think about. It went on for 20 minutes. 20 minutes. Yago, ancient cursed spirit, embodiment of humanity's fear of volcanoes, being who had faced the strongest sorcerer alive, spent 20 minutes fighting a zombie that could not be killed, could not be hurt, could not be reasoned with, and would not shut up the fuck up. Fh. Bonk bonk bonk. Fh. Bonk 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 bonk. At minute 21, something broke inside Yago. Not his body. His spirit. His will. The part of him that believed cursed spirits were superior to humans looked at this brainless, groaning, netherite-wearing monstrosity and thought, I want to leave. Yago stopped fighting. He turned around. And he just walked away. Walked. With the energy of a man leaving a job he hated. Shoulders slumped. Flames dim. Eye half closed. Done. Finished. Over it. The zombie followed. Of course it did. It had one instruction. 1. Chase the goofy volcano dwarf. Forever. It fell into step directly behind Yago's speed 20 dialed down to match his walking pace, because even a brainless undead mob could figure out that walking with the target was more efficient than overshooting. Tap. The zombie poked Yago in the back. Yago kept walking. Tap tap. Stop. Tap. I said stop. Tap tap tap. Fh. Tap. Yago walked faster. The zombie walked faster. Yago turned left. The zombie turned left. Yago stopped. The zombie stopped. Yago took one step. The zombie took one step. And tapped him. Tap. I will end you. Fh. Tap. They walked off into the dark of Shibuya Station together. One angry volcano spirit who had lost the will to fight. One unkillable zombie in full netherite with 10 rings and 4 Minecraft buffs, tapping him on the back every 1.3 seconds like the world's most persistent little brother. From the platform, Sabas watched them go. He ate his last piece of popcorn. With the tears flowing down from his eyes. Beautiful, he whispered. Chapter 4, Planet Earth but worse. Sabas followed Yago through the tunnels of Shibuya Station at a comfortable distance of about 20 feet, hands behind his back, walking like a man on a Sunday stroll through a park. The zombie was still tapping Yago's back. Tap. 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 Fh. Tap. Yago hadn't spoken in 4 minutes. His flames were dim. His shoulders were slumped. He looked like a man on his commute home after the worst day of his life. Which, technically, it was. Sabas cleared his throat. And here we observe the lesser volcanic spirit in its natural habitat, Sabas whispered in the most dramatic David Attenborough voice he could manage. Once a proud apex predator, the creature has been reduced to a state of quiet surrender. Notice the dimming of the flames, a clear sign of emotional defeat. Yago's eye twitched but he didn't turn around. Tap. The netherite zombie, a persistent and deeply stupid organism, continues its lifelong mission of following the volcanic specimen. Scientists remain unsure whether the zombie is aware it is alive. Current evidence suggests, barely. Fh, said the zombie, right on cue. A haunting mating call, Sabas narrated. That's not what that is, Yago snapped without turning around. The volcanic spirit responds with aggression, a defense mechanism commonly seen in creatures that have lost all control of their circumstances. Yago walked faster. The zombie walked faster. Sabas walked faster. The distance between all three remained exactly the same. They were a sad little convoy moving through the underground tunnels of Shibuya like the world's worst field trip. They passed Mahito. Mahito was leaning against a wall, arms crossed, grinning. Because Mahito was always grinning. That was his whole thing. Being the worst and grinning about it. Having fun, Yago. Mahito called out. Shut up. What is that thing? I don't know. Tap. It's touching you. I know. Mahito looked at Sabas. Sabas looked at Mahito. Sabas squinted. Yo, why does that guy look like he was made by a 5-year-old out of Play-Doh? Mahito's grin disappeared for exactly 1 second. One beautiful, glorious second. Then it came back. Because Mahito was Mahito and nothing kept him down except character development he would never receive. I like you, Mahito said. You're funny. I don't like you, Sabas replied. You look like a Roblox character that got left in the microwave. Sabas kept walking. Mahito stood there. For the first time in his existence, a cursed spirit born from humanity's hatred of each other had absolutely no idea what a Roblox was but knew instinctively, deeply, spiritually that he had just been violated. The tunnel opened into a wider corridor. Yago was speed-walking now. Not running, he was too proud to run from a zombie. But he was doing that walk. You know the walk. The walk of a man who's pretending he's not being chased while absolutely being chased. Tap tap. Fh. Tap. And the pursuit continues, Sabas narrated, crouching behind a pillar like a wildlife cameraman. The volcanic spirit attempts to increase pace without appearing desperate. A futile effort. The zombie has no concept of dignity and therefore cannot be outpaced by it. Yago tried turning a corner sharply. The zombie turned the corner sharply. It was always exactly 3 feet behind Yago. Like a shadow. A groaning, netherite-wearing, ring-stacked shadow. Tap. Have you considered, Sabas called out, that maybe he just wants to be friends? It is hitting me. Lightly though. Love taps. I will burn this entire station down. You already tried fire. The fire approach is not working, mate. Maybe try talking to it. Communication is key in any relationship. Yago whirled around and screamed directly into the zombie's face. Full volume. Centuries of cursed spirit fury concentrated into a single volcanic roar that shook the walls and cracked the ceiling. The zombie stared at him. Fh. Dot. Tap. Yago turned back around and kept walking. Remarkable, Sabas whispered. It felt nothing. They walked for another 10 minutes. Through tunnels past rubble. Past unconscious civilians. Past a vending machine that was somehow still working. Sabas stopped, bought a Fanta, and caught back up in 3 seconds. The zombie never stopped tapping. Tap. Not once. Tap. Not for a single second. Tap. It was the most consistent thing in the entire Shibuya incident. Sorcerers were fighting for their lives. Kenjaku's 1,000-year plan was unfolding. The fate of Jujutsu society hung in the balance. And somewhere in the tunnels, a mini-volcano was being followed by a zombie, and a man with one shoe was drinking Fanta and narrating it. Tap. At this point, Sabas whispered, sipping his drink, the volcanic spirit has entered what researchers call the acceptance phase. It no longer flinches at the tapping. It no longer reacts to the groaning. It has simply absorbed the zombie into its life. Like a man who has learned to sleep through his neighbor's dog barking. The pain is still there. But it is background noise now. Yago stopped walking. He stood completely still. The zombie stopped too. It stood 3 feet behind him. Patient. Eternal. One brain cell humming like a broken fridge. Yago slowly turned his head. He looked at the zombie. Then at Sabas. Then back at the zombie. Will it ever stop? Yago asked. With the quiet, broken voice of a man who already knew the answer. Sabas took a sip of Fanta. No. Tap. Fh. Yago turned around and kept walking. Somewhere in Shibuya, Yuji Itadori was fighting for his life against Choso. Somewhere else, Nanami was cutting through transfigured humans with grim determination. Somewhere else, Megami was strategizing, Nobara was being reckless, and the entire Jujutsu world was spiraling into chaos. And in a tunnel beneath all of it, Sabas finished his Fanta, crushed the can, and tossed it into a bin that was somehow still standing. "Right," he said, stretching. "This has been fun, but I think Volcano Boy's broken enough for today." He looked at the zombie one last time. His beautiful, stupid, unkillable son. Still tapping. Still groaning. Still absolutely committed to the one task it had been given. "Keep up the good work, son," Sabas said, saluting. "Make daddy proud." Fh. Tap. Sabas snapped his fingers. A portal opened beneath his feet, swirling, bright, chaotic. "Wait!" Yago spun around. "You're leaving. Take this thing with you." "Can't hear you," Sabas said, already sinking into the portal. "Bad signal down here. Take it. You're breaking up, mate. I swear on every flame in. Tunnel's really messing with the connection. Shame. Anyway, bye." Sabas disappeared. The portal closed. Yago stood in silence. Tap. Fh. Tap. Leave a review and some comments fr. Join the Discord, cuz why not? http://discardy.gg/ju7hsgepmp. Chapter 5, Good Fish. The portal didn't take Sabas where he expected. To be fair, Sabas didn't expect anything. He had no plan. He had never had a plan. Plans were for idiots. The portal spat him out onto a beach. "Oh sick," Sabas said, landing on his feet for the first time ever. He looked around. Blue sky. Palm trees. Crystal clear water. White sand. Gentle waves. "Holiday Ark," he whispered. "Let's go." He was wrong. This was not a holiday. About 50 feet to his left, Nanami was getting eaten alive by fish that appeared out of thin air. Maki was getting kicked through palm trees by a giant red octopus man. Naobito, a 71-year-old man who moved faster than most people could think, was getting his arm bitten off by Shikigami. This was Dagon's domain expansion. The horizon of the captivating Skandha. A tropical paradise that was actively trying to murder everyone inside it. Sabas did not notice any of this. He was too busy looking at the ocean. "Yo," Sabas said. "I wonder if there's fish in there." Nanami slashed through 3 Shikigami, blood running down his face, barely standing. He turned his head and saw in the middle of an active domain battle where 3 grade 1 sorcerers were being overwhelmed by an evolved special grade cursed spirit, some random man with 1 shoe sitting on the beach with a fishing rod. He blinked. He blinked again. What? Maki crashed through another tree, rolled, stood up, and also saw the man. "Who the fuck is that?" Naobito, missing an arm, looked over. "Is he fishing?" He was fishing. Sabas had manifested a fishing rod from thin air, a nice one, wooden handle, proper reel, and cast the line into Dagon's cursed ocean like a man on a Saturday morning with absolutely nowhere to be. He didn't even have bait attached to the hook. "SHH, Sabas said without looking at them. "You'll scare the fish." "We're dying," Maki screamed. "That sounds like a you problem." Dagon himself paused mid-attack. His Shikigami froze. The ancient cursed spirit born from humanity's fear of the ocean looked at this random human who had appeared in his domain, in his ocean, and was fishing in it. "How did you get in here?" Dagon demanded. "Door was open." "There is no door." "Then how'd I get in?" Dagon opened his mouth. Closed it. Opened it again. Nothing came out. He had no answer for this. His domain was supposed to be sealed. Nobody should be able to enter without another domain or... "Anyway, quiet," Sabas said, wiggling his fishing rod. "I'm trying to catch something big." The line tugged. Not a normal tug. Not a "oh I caught a trout" tug. The kind of tug that said something down there is angry and it is large. Sabas grinned. "Oh, we got a bite, ladies and gentlemen. The ocean moved. Not waved. Moved. A massive swell rose from the depths. Dagon's Shikigami scattered. The water churned. Something enormous was coming up from below, something that had absolutely no business being in a cursed domain, or in this anime, or in this dimension, or frankly in any ocean that valued its reputation. The water exploded. Out of the cursed ocean, launched 40 feet into the air with the force of a ballistic missile made of fish, came Duke Fishran. For those unfamiliar, Duke Fishran is a boss from Terraria. Part pig. Part dragon. Part fish. All nightmare. A massive blue-green monstrosity with wings, tusks, glowing eyes, and the general appearance of something that was made on a Friday afternoon after a very long week. It was the size of a building. It hovered above the ocean, water cascading off its body, wings beating, eyes glowing, tusks dripping with cursed sea water. Everyone froze. Nanami froze. His blade lowered half an inch. His brain, the brain of a man who calmly calculated ratio techniques under life-threatening pressure, produced exactly one thought: what? Maki froze. She'd fought cursed spirits. She'd been kicked through trees. She'd stared death in the face. But she had never seen a flying pig fish dragon the size of a house erupt from the ocean like it had a personal vendetta against physics. Naobito froze. He was 71. He was missing an arm. He was done. Dagon froze. This was his ocean. His domain. His water. And something had just come out of it that he had not put there and could not explain. That is not one of my Shikigami, Dagon said quietly. No shit, Maki whispered. Duke Fishran hovered in the air for a moment. Its massive eyes scanned the beach. The palm trees. The sorcerers. The cursed spirit. The sand. Then it looked at Sabas. Then it looked at the fishing rod. Then it looked back at Sabas. Yo, Duke Fishran said. Its voice was deep. Gravelly. Like a man who'd been smoking at the bottom of the ocean for 300 years. Did you just fish me out of my dimension? Yeah, Sabas said. My bad. Duke Fishran looked around again. Squinted as much as a giant pig fish dragon can squint. This ain't Terraria. Nope. Where the fuck am I? Anime. Duke Fishran processed this. Its wings beat slowly. Water dripped from its tusks. It looked at Dagon. Then at Nanami. Then at Maki. Then at the beach. Then back at Sabas. Aight gang, Duke Fishran said, descending slowly until it was hovering just above the water. So let me get this straight. You pulled me, a Terraria boss, out of my home ocean into some anime beach dimension with a fucking fishing rod. Day. And there's some octopus dude over there trying to kill people with magic fish. Also correct. And you're just sitting there. Fishing. That is what I'm doing, yes. Duke Fishran stared at Sabas. It could feel it. The power radiating off this shoeless idiot like heat off the sun. Whatever this man was, he was not normal. He was not even in the same postcode as normal. Duke Fishran had been a boss fight for millions of players across millions of worlds, and it had never felt power like this. It was not going to fight this man. Aight, Duke Fishran said, with the energy of someone who had done the maths and decided that peace was the correct option. I ain't about to start nothing. This ain't my world. I don't know these people. That octopus over there ain't my problem. Dagon bristled. I am not an octopus. Bro, you literally have tentacles on your face. Those are aesthetic. You look like calamari with anger issues. You look like what happens when you leave sushi out too long and it gets mad about it. Dagon's Shikigami started swarming toward Duke Fishran. Hundreds of them. Piranha. Eels. Things with teeth that shouldn't have teeth. Duke Fishran didn't even flinch. It opened its mouth and released a typhoon of press sunrised water that scattered every single Shikigami in a 200-meter radius. The wave crashed through Dagon's domain like a tsunami through a sand castle. Palm trees bent. The beach flooded. Nanami grabbed onto Maki. Naobito grabbed onto nothing because he only had one arm. Dagon stared. His Shikigami, his guaranteed hit Shikigami, had just been power washed out of existence by a fish from another video game. Like I said, Duke Fishran said calmly, settling back down. I ain't starting nothing. But I ain't taking nothing either. It turned back to Sabas. So what do you want from me, Wonshu? Honestly. Sabas said. Nothing. I was just fishing and you showed up. You fished for me. I fish for whatever bites, mate. Duke Fishran sighed. A deep, ancient, aquatic sigh. Can you send me back? Yeah, probably. Then do that. In a minute. I wanna see how this plays out. Sabas gestured at the frozen sorcerers and the stunned Dagon. This is quality entertainment. Duke Fishran looked at the carnage. Looked at the sorcerers. Looked at Dagon, who was still processing the fact that a fish had just called him calamari. Fair enough, Duke Fishran said, and sat down on the beach next to Sabas. And so, in the middle of Dagon's domain expansion, while Nanami, Maki, and Naobito were actively fighting for their lives, a man with one shoe and a Terraria boss sat side by side on the sand, watching. Sabas manifested 2 cans of Fanta. He offered one to Duke Fishran. Duke Fishran took it. They watched Dagon try to reassemble his shattered dignity. That octopus is getting cooked, Duke Fishran observed. He's not an octopus. Bro, he's literally got tentacles. Yeah, fair enough. Chapter 6, The Commentary Booth from Hell. Sabas had manifested a popcorn bucket. An unlimited popcorn bucket. A bottomless, physics-defying container of buttered perfection that refilled itself every time a handful was taken. It had bottomless written on the side in gold letters, and underneath that, in smaller text, seriously. It doesn't stop. Duke Fishran had one too. They sat shoulder to fin on the beach, legs out, drinks in the sand, watching the carnage unfold like it was pay-per-view. Right, Sabas said, shoving popcorn into his mouth. Recap for the audience at home. We've got 3 sorcerers, the blonde one with the tie who fights like an accountant who's had enough. Nanami, Duke Fishran said. How do you know his name? I don't. He just looks like an Nanami. Fair. Then we've got the girl with the glasses who's been kicked through 4 trees and is still standing. Hard. Incredibly hard. Respect. And then the old man who's missing an arm and is still faster than everyone here. How old is he? 71. Duke Fishran slowly turned his massive head toward Sabas. 71 and he's boxing an eldritch squid. This anime is insane, mate. Fr. On the battlefield, Dagon was cooking. Not getting cooked. Doing the cooking. His death swarm was relentless Shikigami appearing out of thin air, biting into flesh the moment they existed. Nanami was bleeding from 6 different places. Naobito was down to 1 arm and running on pure old man spite. Maki had been kicked through enough palm trees to qualify as deforestation. The octopus is winning, Duke Fishran observed, reaching into his bucket. Popcorn appeared. It always appeared. The bucket did not care about the laws of thermodynamics. He's not an octopus. He's got 8 things on his face. Those are tentacles. What do octopuses have? Tentacles. Case closed. True. Dagon launched another wave of Shikigami. Nanami slashed 3. 4 more appeared. Maki dodged 2, got hit by a 3rd. Naobito weaved through 6 at 71 years old with 1 arm, which was genuinely the most impressive thing either of them had ever seen. Yo, Duke Fishran said, pointing a fin. The old man just dodged 6 fish with 1 arm. He's 71. That man is 71 and he's moving like that. What are they feeding these sorcerers, bro? Whatever it is, I want some. Then the ocean rippled. Not from Dagon. Not from a Shikigami. From something else. Shadows, liquid, dark, unnatural, erupted from the water like ink spilling upward. They twisted. They spiraled. They formed a column that stretched toward the sky of the domain. Oh! Sabas sat up straighter. A figure burst through the shadows. A kid. Teenager. Dark hair. Exhausted face. Barely standing but radiating cursed energy like a man with absolutely nothing left to lose. Megami Fushiguro had entered the domain. New character just dropped, Duke Fishran announced through a mouthful of popcorn. Megami extended his shadow toward Maki. From it, she pulled out a weapon, 3 connected segments, a staff that could be split apart. The special grade cursed tool, Playful Cloud. He brought accessories, Sabas said approvingly. Maki gripped Playful Cloud and immediately cracked Dagon across the face so hard the cursed spirit flew sideways through his own beach. Sand exploded. Water splashed. A palm tree fell over. Ah! Both Sabas and Duke Fishran stood up simultaneously. Duke Fishran's popcorn went everywhere. The bucket refilled instantly. She hit him with the stick. With the fancy stick. Did you see that octopus fly? He went sideways. He went diagonal. They high-fived. A man with one shoe and a giant pig-fish dragon slapping appendages together on a cursed beach while a teenage boy struggled to maintain a domain expansion. This was fine. Everything was fine. Megami's domain clashed with Dagon's. The guaranteed hit was neutralized. The Shikigami still came, but they could be seen now. Blocked. Dodged. It was no longer a slaughter, it was a fight. But Dagon was still winning. 4 sorcerers against 1 special grade inside his own domain and he was still winning. Nanami was protecting Megami. Naobito was running interference on one arm. Maki was swinging Playful Cloud like a woman possessed. Megami was burning through everything he had just to keep his domain from collapsing. They can't win this, Duke Fishran said, suddenly serious. A piece of popcorn hung from his tusk. The kid's running out of gas. The old man's got one arm. Blonde guy's bleeding from everywhere. Stick girl's tough but she can't solo the octopus. No, Sabas agreed. They can't. So what happens? Dunno. Let's find out. Megami was at his limit. His domain was crumbling. But instead of trying to overpower Dagon's domain, because that was never the plan, he did something smarter. He started opening a hole. A gap in the barrier. An exit. Smart kid, Sabas muttered. He's not trying to win. He's trying to get everyone out. Respect, Duke Fishran said. Nanami yelled at the others to assemble. They gathered around Megami. The hole in the barrier flickered, unstable, fragile, barely holding. Dagon saw the opening. He surged forward to stop them. And then someone came through the hole. Not out. In. A hand gripped the edge of the barrier gap. Then an arm. Then a body hauled itself through with the casual ease of a man climbing over a garden fence. He stood up. The beach went quiet. Even the waves seemed to shut up. The man was tall. Built like someone had designed a human specifically for violence and then forgot to add the off switch. Dark hair. Dead eyes. Scars that told stories nobody wanted to hear. He radiated nothing. No cursed energy. Not a drop. He was a blank space in the cursed world, a void shaped like a man. But the pressure. The physical, raw, animalistic pressure that came off him made every single person on that beach, sorcerer and curse alike, take an involuntary step backward. Toji Fushiguro had entered the domain. Sabas's popcorn hand froze halfway to his mouth. Duke Fishran's jaw dropped. A piece of popcorn fell out. Who, Duke Fishran whispered, is that? Sabas didn't answer immediately. He was staring. With the pure, primal recognition of one unserious being acknowledging that someone very serious had just walked in. I don't know, Sabas said slowly. But that man has never paid taxes and I respect it. Toji moved. He simply wasn't somewhere and then was somewhere else. 1 second he was at the barrier gap. The next second he was in front of Maki, ripping playful cloud out of her hands with a grip so strong she couldn't have held on if she'd welded herself to it. He stole her stick, Duke Fishran yelled. He took the woman's stick. Dagon didn't even get time to react. He summoned a Shikigami, one single eel to deal with this cursed energy-less nobody. Toji deleted it. One swing of playful cloud and the Shikigami ceased to exist so hard it probably got removed from Dagon's memory. Then Toji closed the distance. He hit Dagon. With pure, raw, old-fashioned violence. Playful cloud connected with Dagon's face like a freight train hitting a watermelon. The cursed spirit rocketed through his own domain, bounced off the water twice, and cratered into the sand 50 meters away. Ah! He's getting packed up. Toji was already there. Standing over Dagon. Swinging again. And again. Each hit sounded like a car crash. The sand cracked. The water split. Dagon's body bounced off the beach like a rag doll being used as a basketball. The sorcerers watched in stunned silence. Nanami, beaten, bleeding, barely alive, lowered his blade and stared at this man who had appeared from nowhere and was doing what 4 of them couldn't. Megami stared at Toji. Something in the back of his brain flickered. He didn't know why. Maki stared at her empty hands where playful cloud used to be. Naobito, with one arm, sighed. Show off. Okay, hold on, Sabas said, sitting back down. This is getting way too one-sided. Duke Fishran looked at him. What do you mean one-sided? The scary guy is demolishing the octopus. This is peak. Exactly. It's too peak. Where's the drama? Where's the tension? Every good fight needs a bit of back and forth, you know? Can't just be one bloke beating the stuffing out of a seafood platter for 5 minutes. Duke Fishran squinted. What are you about to do? Sabas grinned. He snapped his fingers. A tiny glass bottle shimmering, translucent, filled with grey liquid materialized in his hand. He flicked it across the beach like a man tossing a coin into a fountain. It arced through the air, spinning end over end, and shattered against Dagon's back mid-beating. Resistance 4. Duration, 4 minutes and 11 seconds. Toji's next hit landed. And Dagon barely moved. Toji blinked. That wasn't right. That hit should have sent the cursed spirit through the sand and into whatever was underneath the sand. Instead, Dagon skidded back about 2 feet and stood up. Dagon looked at his own hands. Then at his body. Then at Toji's weapon. What? Dagon said. He didn't know why, but every hit suddenly felt like it was coming through a mattress. Like someone had wrapped his entire body in bubble wrap made of divine intervention. The pain was there technically but reduced to roughly a fifth of what it should have been. Toji swung again. Full power. A hit that should crack mountains. It connected. Dagon's head snapped to the side. He tanked it. Did he just tank that? Duke Fishran was on his feet. Popcorn flying everywhere. The bucket refilling instantly. He just ate that hit. He ate that like breakfast. Resistance 4, baby, Sabas said, leaning back. Every hit reduced to 20% of original damage. My man Dagon's built different now. Temporarily. For exactly 4 minutes and 11 seconds. You buffed the octopus. I buffed the octopus. Why? Why not? End. Entertainment value. Toji hit Dagon again. And again. And again. Playful cloud was a blur, each swing fast enough to create sonic booms, each impact strong enough to shatter concrete. But Dagon was standing. taking every single hit. Getting rocked, getting pushed, getting ragdolled but not going down. Toji's eyes narrowed. Something was wrong. This curse should be dead 3 times over. Instead it was eating hits like snacks and asking for seconds. "Aight," Sabas said, watching Toji speed blitz Dagon across the beach for the 4th time in 10 seconds. Scary man's fast. But what if he was faster? No. What if? You're going to buff him too, aren't you? I'm going to buff him too. Sabas snapped his fingers again. A second bottle, this one pale blue, glowing softly, arced across the beach and shattered against Toji's back mid-swing. Speed I haste I duration, until Sabas gets bored. Toji had already been fast. Toji had been can't see him move fast. Toji had been blink and you miss 3 attacks fast. Toji with speed I and haste I was something else entirely. He hit Dagon 23 times in 1 second. Not an exaggeration. 23 distinct impacts. Playful cloud became a streak of light. Each swing was 20% faster than it should have been. Each movement covered 20% more ground. It wasn't a fight anymore. It was a blender. Toji was moving so fast he left after images. 3 of them. At one point there appeared to be 4 Tojis all hitting Dagon simultaneously. But Dagon was tanking every single hit. 20% damage per swing meant Toji was doing roughly 4.5 times less damage than he should have been. And Toji was hitting so fast that the individual damage per hit didn't matter, what mattered was the volume. It was like being hit with 1,000 airsoft pellets. Each one? Nothing. All of them? You're going to have a bad time. But you're not going to die. Dagon flew across the beach. Bounced. Got hit again. Flew the other direction. Bounced. Got hit again. He was a pinball in his own domain. A punching bag in his own house. Getting absolutely mopped across every square inch of sand but staying alive. He's tanking. He's tanking the scary guy. Duke Fishran was standing on the beach screaming, popcorn spilling from his bucket, which refilled before the popcorn hit the sand. The octopus is eating hits from a man with no cursed energy and he's still standing. That buff is crazy, Duke Fishran said, shoveling popcorn into his mouth. Toji smashed Dagon into the water. The ocean split. Dagon skipped across the surface like a stone, bounced 7 times, and crashed into the shallows. Toji was already there somehow, impossibly standing on the water, playful cloud raised. He brought it down. Boom! Dagon cratered into the ocean floor. Water exploded outward in a ring. A mini tsunami washed across the beach. Duke Fishran didn't move. The wave passed through him. Sabas raised his popcorn bucket above his head to keep it dry. Dagon pulled himself up. Battered. Cracked. Leaking cursed energy from a dozen fractures. But alive. How? Nanami whispered from the shoreline, barely conscious. How is that curse still standing? Plot armor, Sabas called out. What? Sabas turned his head and began to whistle. Nothing. Toji didn't understand it. And Toji was not a man who needed to understand things. He was a man who hit things until they stopped moving. That was his whole deal. But this curse was not stopping. So Toji hit harder. Boom. Dagon flew. Boom. Dagon bounced. Boom 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 boom. Dagon ragdolled across the domain like a wet sock in a tumble dryer. But every time Dagon got back up. Slower each time. More damaged. More cracked. But the resistance 4 was doing its job. 20% damage meant Toji needed 5 times the hits to do what he'd normally do in 1. And Toji was fast now. So he was getting those hits in. But it turned a 10-second beatdown into a 4-minute war. This is the greatest fight I've ever seen, Duke Fishran said, tears forming in his massive eyes. Not sad tears. Entertainment tears. He's mopping the floor with him, but the floor won't break. Unstoppable force meets an immovable object, Sabas said. Unstoppable force meets an immovable octopus, Duke Fishran corrected. Yet. Sure. Octopus. Duke Fishran shoved an impossible amount of popcorn into his mouth. The bucket refilled. He shoved more. The bucket refilled again. It was an Ouroboros of snacking. An infinite loop of butter and salt. 3 minutes and 47 seconds into the Resistance 4 buff, Toji had hit Dagon roughly 4,312 times. Dagon was somehow still alive. Barely. He looked like a chewed-up stress toy. His body was cracked everywhere. His Shikigami had stopped spawning because he literally did not have the cursed energy left to make them. He was standing technically in the sense that his legs were beneath him and gravity hadn't fully won yet. But he was standing. 24 seconds left on the buff, Sabas said, checking an imaginary watch. Is the octopus going to make it? Absolutely not. 4 minutes and 11 seconds. The Resistance 4 wore off. Dagon felt it immediately. The invisible bubble wrap around his body vanished. The world got sharp again. Every crack, every fracture, every hit he'd tanked for the last 4 minutes suddenly reported for duty. Toji still buffed with speed eye and haste I noticed instantly. His next hit landed and Dagon went flying twice as far as before. Ah, Dagon said, mid-air. That's worse. Toji stacked playful cloud sections together. Sharpened the ends by grinding them against each other. Launched himself into the air. Dagon tried to guard. Toji drove the sharpened staff clean through Dagon's face. Ah! Duke Fishran spilled his entire bucket. Toji wasn't done. He ripped the other end free, sharpened it, and stabbed Dagon again. And again. And again. Rapid fire. Each stab faster than the last thanks to the haste buff. It wasn't a fight anymore. It was a man aggressively deconstructing a fish with a pointy stick. Dagon's body flickered. His domain cracked. The beach shattered. The ocean froze. The palm trees dissolved. The sky split apart like broken glass. Oh, that's the domain breaking, Sabas said casually, standing up and brushing sand off his one remaining trouser leg. Time to go. Duke Fishran stood up too. Stretched his wings. The domain collapsed. Reality rushed back in. The beach disappeared and they were back in Shibuya Station, dark, broken, underground. Dagon was gone. Exorcised. Erased. Toji stood in the middle of the destruction, playful cloud dripping, eyes empty, already looking for the next thing to kill. The sorcerers stood around him in various states of what just happened. Nanami was bleeding. Naobito was missing an arm. Maki was staring at Toji like she'd just seen something she couldn't explain. Megami was on the ground, drained, staring at the man who'd just soloed a special grade and feeling something he couldn't name. Nobody noticed Sabas. Nobody noticed the pig-fish dragon standing next to him. Because Sabas didn't want them to. And when you had every power in existence, not being noticed was as easy as breathing. Right, Sabas whispered to Duke Fishran. Good show. Solid 8 out of 10. Only 8. The octopus went down too fast at the end. Buff ran out. Nothing I could do. You literally could have extended it. Yeah, but the scary man deserved his moment. Can't steal a man's highlight reel. Duke Fishran nodded slowly. Fist bumping Sabas. Respect. Sabas opened a portal. Small. Quiet. Just big enough for a large aquatic Terraria boss. This goes back to your ocean, Sabas said. Duke Fishran looked at the portal. Then at Sabas. Then at the chaos of Shibuya Station. This was fun, Duke Fishran said. Yet it was. If you ever fish me out again, bring better snacks. The popcorn was unlimited. The butter wasn't enough. Noted. Duke Fishran flew through the portal. It closed behind him. Gone. Back to Terraria. Back to normal. As if he'd never been there. Sabas stood alone in the wreckage of Shibuya Station, one shoe on, invisible, holding an empty popcorn bucket that was no longer refilling because the fun was over. He looked around. Somewhere above him, Yago was still being tapped by a zombie. Somewhere nearby, Kenjika was guarding a cube. Somewhere else, Yuji was about to have the worst night of his life. Right, Sabas said, tossing the bucket over his shoulder. What's next? Chapter 7, that's 1. That's 2. That's stop touching me. The domain shattered and the beach went with it. Back to Shibuya Station. Dark. Broken. Dagon was ash on the floor. Nanami was standing through what could only be described as spite. Naobito was missing an arm and somehow still vertical. Maki was bruised, burned, and holding nothing because Toji had stolen her weapon, used it to commit unspeakable violence on a fish, and dipped without saying a word. Toji himself had grabbed Megami and kicked him out the station. Didn't explain. Didn't wave. Just took his son and left like a man sneaking out of a family reunion early. Did he just leave? Maki said. With my weapon, Maki added. 3 seconds of quiet. Then they heard it. Tap. Footsteps from the left corridor. Heavy. Confident. The temperature climbed. Tap. Fh. Tap tap. From the darkness, Yago emerged. His single eye was locked forward. Flames low and steady. Face carved from pure intent. He had come here for one reason. Behind him 3 feet back, matching his pace exactly the zombie. Tap. Fh. Tap. Yago did not acknowledge it. He had transcended acknowledgement. Somewhere between the subway tunnels and this corridor, Yago had achieved a level of mental discipline that monks spend lifetimes chasing. The tapping was still there. The groaning was still there. And he simply did not care anymore. The zombie was part of his life now the way weather was part of everyone's life. You didn't fight rain. You walked through it. Yago walked past the sorcerers. Not toward them. Past them. Straight to the ash on the ground. He knelt. Gently, so gently it didn't match a single thing about him. He scooped Dagon's remains into his palm. Fh. Tap. Leave the rest to me, Yago said quietly. I'll meet you in the wastelands. 100 years from now. Genuinely touching. A cursed spirit mourning his friend. A promise between beings born from fear who had somehow found something worth caring about. Fh. Tap tap. Yago let the ash fall through his fingers. He stood up. He turned around. Nanami saw it before Yago moved. The switch. The moment morning became murder. We need to. Yago was already beside him. One hand on Nanami's waist. Palm flat. Heat instant, absolute. That's 1. Nanami erupted. Fire consumed his left side. His suit disintegrated. He flew sideways and cratered the floor. Fh. Tap. The zombie tapped Yago's back mid-murder. Yago did not blink. Maki opened her mouth. Yago was already in front of her. Fire. Impact. That's 2. Tap. Naobito moved. Because even now, even with everything, he was still fast. The fastest sorcerer alive after Satoru Gojo, of course. He dodged left. 2 small volcanic openings appeared behind him. He didn't see them. 2 crossing fire beams caught him dead center. That's 3. Tap. Fh. 3 sorcerers. 3 seconds. All down. Yago stood in the middle of scorched concrete and silence. Flames dimming. I already scanning ahead. Dagon was avenged. Now Uchiha Tadari. Sukuna's fingers. The real objective. He took a step forward. Tap. Another step. Tap. Then the tapping stopped. After over an hour of non-stop contact every 1.3 seconds, the absence hit harder than any cursed technique. Yago's brain conditioned to expect it, wired for it, screamed at the gap. He glanced back. The zombie wasn't behind him. It was beside him. Walking in perfect sync. Stride for stride. Arms swinging at the same time. Matching his pace like they'd rehearsed it. Like two mates heading to get food after a long day. No, Yago said. Fetch. Get behind me. Fetch. The zombie did not get behind him. The zombie had been behind Yago. For an hour. It had explored every possible angle of behind. It had tapped. It had groaned. It had done the work. And now in its single rotting brain cell it had decided that the relationship had leveled up. It leaned into Yago. Its shoulder touched Yago's shoulder. Don't. The zombie's arm came up. Slowly. Mechanically. And draped itself over Yago's shoulder like they'd just won a match together. Fetch. Remove your. Yago shrugged. The arm came off. The zombie put it back. Yago shrugged harder. The arm came back faster. Yago blasted it with fire. The arm didn't notice. The arm had been through worse. The arm was committed. The arm stayed. Yago, a special grade cursed spirit who had just bodied 3 elite sorcerers in 3 seconds flat, stood in the wreckage of Shibuya Station with a zombie's arm draped lovingly over his shoulder like a prom photo. I will reduce this country to cinders, Yago whispered. Fetch, the zombie said supportively. They walked. Side by side. Yago and the zombie. Through Shibuya's corridors. Through the dark. Through the wreckage. The zombie's arm never left his shoulder. It had found its spot. It was home. Yago sped up. The zombie sped up. Yago turned a corner. The zombie turned with him, smooth, in sync, like they'd been doing this for years. At one point Yago tried phasing through a wall. The zombie walked through it. Not phased. Just walked. The wall broke around it. The zombie kept going. It didn't even blink because it couldn't blink because it didn't have eyelids. Yago flew toward the ceiling. The zombie jumped. Grabbed his leg mid-air. Hung there like a child being carried through a supermarket. Let go. Fetch. Yago landed. The zombie landed. Stood up. Arm back over the shoulder. Like nothing happened. At one point, Yago stopped to sense cursed energy. The zombie stopped too. Stood perfectly still beside him. Waited. Patiently. Yago started walking again. The zombie started walking again. They were in sync now. Their footsteps matched. Left, right, left, right. Yago's flames crackled. The zombie's armor clinked. If you closed your eyes and listened, it almost sounded like two people walking together. Which it was. Technically. If you were generous with the word people. Then Yago stopped dead. His eye snapped wide. His flames surged. Something had just shifted in Shibuya, something massive, ancient, and deeply wrong. Sukuna. A finger had been released. He could feel it. The king of curses was waking up inside that boy, and if Yago could get there first, if he could feed a Tatari the rest of the fingers. Yago took off. Full sprint. Flames trailing behind him like a comet. The zombie sprinted beside him. Arm finally off the shoulder because they were running, and even a dead mob understood you don't side hug at Mach speed. But it was there. Right beside him. Stride for stride. Green skin. Dead eyes forward. Not chasing anymore. Running with him. They disappeared into Shibuya's darkness together. Sabas had watched the whole thing from behind a pillar. Invisible. Arms crossed. He'd watched Yago burn the sorcerers. Didn't step in. Not his world. Not his fight. Not his business. But the zombie, his stupid, beautiful, brain-dead son going from stalker to soulmate? That he hadn't expected. My boy's speedrunning the relationship, Sabas muttered. Stay proud, son, you are dedicated. He pushed off the pillar. Looked at the 3 sorcerers on the ground. Burned. Broken. He cracked his neck. And followed the fire deeper into Shibuya. Chapter 8, My Future Son-in-Law. Yago found Yuji's body on the ground floor of Shibuya Station. The boy was unconscious. Face down. Beaten half to death by Choso. Blood everywhere. 2 girls, Nanako and Mimiko, were crouched over him, shoving a mummified finger into his mouth like the world's worst first aid. Yago landed beside them. The zombie landed beside Yago. Its arm was hooked around Yago's like they were a couple on a Sunday walk. How many did you feed him? Yago demanded. The girls looked at Yago. Then at the zombie attached to his arm. Then back at Yago. 1, Nanako said slowly. What is that thing on your? Don't. How many fingers? 1. 1 wasn't enough. But 10 at once? That would force a switch. Kenjiku had told him 1 finger a day for 20 days and Yuji keeps control. 10 at once? Sukuna takes the wheel. Yago reached into his cloak, difficult with a zombie permanently fused to his other arm, and pulled out a scroll. Inside, 10 of Sukuna's fingers. Mummified. Ancient. Each one radiating cursed energy that made the air taste like copper. Time to wake up, Yago said. Fh, said the zombie. I wasn't talking to you. Yago knelt, unrolled the scroll with one hand because the zombie had claimed the other, and started shoving fingers into Yuji's mouth one by one. 1. 2. 3. The zombie watched with its empty eyes. 4. 5. 6. Yago was feeding an unconscious teenager cursed mummy fingers while a Minecraft zombie in netherite armor clung to his arm like a toddler at a supermarket. This was his life now. 7. 8. 9. 10. Done. 15 total. Yago stood up. He noticed the girls were still nearby, enveloped in smoke, barely alive, too scared to move but unable to escape. He could deal with them later. Right now. The air changed. It didn't change gradually. Someone flipped a switch labeled evil and cranked it past maximum. The temperature dropped. The pressure spiked. Every shadow grew darker. Every sound died. The concept of safety packed its bags and left Shibuya. Yuji's body twitched. The marks spread. Dark lines crawling across skin like ink through water. A second pair of eyes opened beneath the first. The mouth curved into a smile that had no warmth in it whatsoever. Sukuna sat up. He healed the wounds on Yuji's body casually, like brushing lint off a jacket, and stood. Rolled his neck. Cracked his knuckles. Looked around with the energy of a man who'd been woken from a nap and was deciding who to blame. His presence was suffocating. Not like Gojo's. Gojo's power felt like standing next to the sun. Bright. Overwhelming. But warm. Sukuna was the opposite. Standing near him felt like drowning in something ancient and hungry. Every instinct in every living thing within 100 meters screamed one word: run. Yago didn't run. But he felt it. This wasn't Gojo's overwhelming brightness. This was pure, concentrated malice. Worse than Gojo in a way Yago hadn't expected. Move, Sukuna said. 1 second. Yago moved. His body moved, instinct overriding pride. He darted sideways, putting distance between himself and the King of Curses. The zombie came with him, arms still linked, matching his speed perfectly. The girls hadn't moved. Couldn't move. Nanako was frozen. Mimiko was shaking. They could both feel it, one wrong breath and they'd die. Sukuna walked toward them. Slow. Unhurried. 4 eyes scanning the 3 figures in front of him, 2 terrified girls, 1 bleeding volcano, and a Minecraft zombie standing upright with its arm hooked around said volcano. "You're all holding your heads a little too high," Sukuna said, "to be standing before me." Nanako and Mimiko hit the floor instantly. Full prostration. Faces to the concrete. Yago dropped to one knee. He dragged the zombie down with him by the arm. The zombie folded at the middle like a hinged door, face hitting the floor, but its arm stayed linked. Even the King of Curses couldn't separate them. One knee wasn't enough. Sukuna's technique sliced the air. A massive gash carved into the wall behind them and the top of Yago's volcanic head separated clean off. Blood poured down his face. The zombie was untouched. It had already been face down on the floor. Accidental perfect dodge. 0 brain cells required. "The boughs that bear most hang lowest," Sukuna said. "Though yours doesn't bear much at all now." Sukuna turned to the girls. Asked what they wanted. Nanako begged him to kill the imposter wearing Geto's body. Offered him a finger's location in exchange. Sukuna smiled. Then Mimiko's head left her body. Nanako screamed. Reached for her phone, her cursed technique. Sukuna was faster. Always faster. He cut her apart before her finger touched the screen. Quick. Brutal. "We're not dwelling on it." Sukuna caught Nanako's phone. Looked at it. Tossed it. Boring technique. He turned to Yago. "You're next. What do you want?" Yago wiped blood from his face with his free hand. His other hand was occupied by the zombie, who had stood back up and reattached itself to his arm the moment the bowing was over. "I want you to take over this body permanently," Yago said. "Use the boy's friends as leverage. Make a binding vow." "No. No. I have my own plans." Sukuna's 4 eyes drifted to the zombie. "But I appreciate the fingers. So here's my offer." He paused. Looked at the zombie again. "Longer this time." "What is that thing?" "It won't let go of me," Yago said flatly. "That's not what I asked. I don't know what it is. Some shoeless man created it and told it to follow me. It has been attached to me for the last 2 hours. It cannot be killed. It cannot be hurt. It cannot be reasoned with. It is the single worst thing that has ever happened to me." "UUUFH," the zombie confirmed. Sukuna stared at it. 1,000 years of existence. Sorcerers, curses, armies all killed. Every technique, every domain, every cursed tool in history all witnessed. He had never seen whatever this is. Sukuna raised one hand. A casual gesture, the kind of motion a man makes when swatting a fly. Dismantle. An invisible slash crossed the zombie's chest. The kind that cut cursed spirits like paper. The zombie stood there. A tiny white scratch on the chest plate. Healed before Sukuna's hand finished lowering. UUUFH. Sukuna's eyes narrowed. 4 of them. All at once. Cleave. The advanced version. Adapted to the target's toughness. The technique that adjusted its cutting power based on cursed energy, except this thing had no cursed energy, which meant Cleave didn't know what to do with it. The slash hit the zombie square in the face. Nothing. Not a scratch. Not a flinch. Not a single pixel of acknowledgement that the King of Curses had just hit it. UUUFH, the zombie said, directly into Sukuna's face. Silence. For the first time in 1,000 years, the first time something had confused Ryaman Sukuna. Sukuna said. The most dangerous hymn in the history of language. Yago, despite bleeding from his scalp and standing next to the most terrifying being alive, felt a tiny spark of satisfaction. The King of Curses couldn't kill his zombie either. Welcome to the club, buddy. Sukuna turned back to Yago, apparently deciding the zombie wasn't worth his time. Fight me, Sukuna said. Land one hit. If you do, I'll work with your group and slaughter every human in Shibuya. Except one. Yago processed this. The zombie processed nothing. I accept, Yago said. Behind a collapsed pillar, invisible, Sabas had watched the entire thing. The girls dying. The head slicing. The deal. And most importantly Sukuna trying to kill his zombie. Twice. Yo, Sabas whispered to himself. Did this fraud just try to kill my boy? Sukuna and Yago were squaring up. The fight was about to start. The zombie was still on Yago's arm. It was going to be dragged into a fight against the King of Curses, a fight that was going to end one way. Yago was going to die. And when Yago died, Sabas looked at the zombie. His beautiful, stupid, unkillable creation. Hooked onto Yago's arm. Loyal. Committed. Brain dead but dedicated. Something stirred in Sabas's chest. Parental instinct. Nat, Sabas said, standing up. I can't let Fraud Kuna smoke my future son-in-law. That volcano man is family now. The zombie chose him and I respect my son's choices. He reached behind his back into what can only be described as somewhere and pulled out a fruit. Not a normal fruit. Not the kind that kills you by lodging in your throat. This fruit looked like someone had taken a regular fruit and set it on fire from the inside. Deep red, almost black at the edges, swirling patterns across its skin pulsing like magma flowing through cracks in the earth. It radiated heat. The air around it shimmered. The Megya no Mi. The magma fruit. Admiral Akainu's devil fruit. The power to become, create, and control magma. The stuff beneath the earth's crust at temperatures that make Yago's flames look like a birthday candle. Sabas looked at the fruit. He looked at Yago. He looked at the zombie on Yago's arm. For my son, Sabas whispered. He dropped the invisibility. Yago saw him first. The shoeless man. The one who'd created the zombie. The one who'd appeared during Gojo's sealing, slipped on blood, called him a science fair volcano, and ruined his entire night. You. Sabas was already in front of him. Moving faster than Sukuna could track, and Sukuna could track everything. One moment behind a pillar. The next, 3 inches from Yago's face, holding a fruit that smelled like the earth's core. Sukuna's 4 eyes locked onto the newcomer. His expression didn't change. But something behind those eyes sharpened. This man had moved faster than him. That hadn't happened in 1,000 years. No time to explain, Sabas said. What are you? My future son-in-law. Sabas held the fruit to Yago's face. Eat this. Silence. Sukuna watched. Curious despite himself. Yago's single eye went wide. You're what? Son. In. Law. Sabas pointed at the zombie on Yago's arm. That's my son. You're dating my son. This makes you family. And I am not letting Fraud Kuna over there smoke my family. I am not dating. The zombie chose you. That's marriage. That's not how any. Eat the fruit, Yagote. What is? It'll make your fire look like a lighter. Just eat it. I don't. Eat. Sabas shoved the Megya no Mi into Yago's mouth. Not gently. With the urgency of a mother bird feeding a chick, except the mother bird was a stupidly strong maniac in one shoe and the chick was an ancient cursed spirit having the worst night of his existence. Yago's eye went wide. He bit down. The fruit was, as every devil fruit user in history would confirm, the most disgusting thing he had ever tasted. And he was a being made of fire who didn't technically have taste buds. It tasted like someone had blended a tire with battery acid and seasoned it with betrayal. His mouth rejected it. His tongue filed for divorce. Every fiber of his cursed spirit body screamed spit it out. But Yago had survived Gojo. He had survived a zombie. He had survived having the top of his head sliced off by the king of curses. He was not going to be defeated by a fruit. He swallowed. And something inside him ignited. Chapter 9, Stand Proud, Volcano Boy. In the original timeline, the one without a shoeless maniac ruining everything, Yago was worth roughly 8 to 9 Sukuna fingers. Strong enough to cook most sorcerers. Not strong enough to touch the king of curses. He didn't land a single hit. With the Megya no Mi? 12? Maybe 13 on a good day. Still not enough. But enough to make Sukuna raise an eyebrow. And the king of curses hadn't raised an eyebrow for anyone except Satoru Gojo, of course, in 1,000 years. The fruit's power hit Yago like a truck made of the earth's core. His fire went out. All of it. Gone. For one horrible second he felt empty, and then the magma came rushing in to fill the gap, and Yago's entire body lit up like the planet had decided to have a tantrum inside him. The floor beneath his feet liquefied. The walls started dripping. The air stopped being air and started being pain. Yago looked at his hands. Glowing. Dripping. Heavy. He clenched a fist and the station shook. What did that man give me? Yago muttered. Fh, said the zombie on his arm. But the zombie wasn't on his arm anymore. Sabas had appeared, grabbed the zombie, and whispered, "Stay with me, son. That one's dangerous," before vanishing again. For the first time in hours, Yago's arm was free. He looked at the empty space where the zombie usually was. Flexed his fingers. Rolled his shoulder. He almost missed it. Almost. Sukuna looked at the melting floor. The dripping walls. The cursed spirit glowing like the earth had a grudge. "Oh," Sukuna said. "You got hotter. I got stronger. Same deal. One hit." They moved. Here's the thing about a Logia body that nobody warned Sukuna about: you can't punch magma. Sukuna threw the first hit a right hook fast enough to blur, and his fist went through Yago's face. Not through it like breaking it. Through it like dipping your hand into a pot of fondue, except the fondue was 1,000 degrees and deeply personal. Sukuna pulled his hand back. It was burned. Actually burned. Yuji's knuckles were red and blistering. He looked at his hand. Then at Yago. Then at his hand again. "Hey," Sukuna said. Yago's face reformed. The hole filled in like it was never there. "Can't punch me anymore," Yago said, and for the first time tonight, his voice had swagger in it. Sukuna flexed his burned hand. Healed it with reverse curse technique in half a second. Then he smiled, the kind of smile that historically preceded entire bloodlines ending. "Then I'll cut you instead." Dismantle. 3 invisible slashes carved through Yago's torso. These cut the cursed energy, not the body. No amount of being liquid saved you from getting your soul sliced. Yago split apart, sprayed magma everywhere, and reformed 10 feet back, breathing hard. "Ow," Yago said. "There it is," Sukuna said. The fight blew out of the station and into the streets of Shibuya. Buildings melted. Not a metaphor. Yago touched one while reforming midair, and the entire left side of it sagged like a candle left on a radiator. Kusakabe and Panda, mid-scuffle with some curse users nearby, stopped and stared at the skyline. "Is that building melting?" Panda said. "We're leaving," Kusakabe said immediately. "But leaving?" Sukuna grabbed Yago's scarf, the one part that wasn't magma, and swung him through a building. Yago liquefied on impact, passed through the wall, reformed on the other side, and fired a stream of molten rock back through the hole. Sukuna dodged sideways. The stream hit the building behind him and the building simply gave up on being a building. Yago was lasting. And in a fight where the original version of him got dismantled in minutes, lasting was a miracle. Sukuna noticed too. He was actually having to move. Actually dodging. The magma body meant every physical exchange burned him, and while he could heal, healing constantly was annoying. And the King of Curses did not like being annoyed. "You're making me work," Sukuna said, landing on a rooftop. "Good. I didn't say I liked it." Yago went maximum. The meteor that rose above Shibuya wasn't fire this time. It was denser. Heavier. Glowing like a small sun. The heat coming off it made windows explode 3 blocks away. Sukuna looked up at it. Didn't move. "That might hurt," Sukuna said. "If it hits." He vanished. The meteor hit. Shibuya buckled. Shockwave. Crater. 2 blocks flattened. Yago stood on top, breathing hard, scanning for. Sukuna was sitting on the edge of the meteor. Legs crossed. Picking something out of his teeth. "Missed," he said. Yago's eye twitched. "Why won't you use your domain?" Sukuna asked, genuinely curious. "Is it because of Gojo? He crushed yours, didn't he?" Yago said nothing. "That's sad," Sukuna said, and meant it. "You have all this new power and you're still fighting scared." Sukuna stood up. Stretched. Like a man getting up from a park bench. "All right," he said. "Let me pull out something fun." He formed a hand sign. Old. Ancient. The kind that looked wrong, like it belonged to a different era of Jujutsu entirely. "Binding vow," Sukuna said casually. "Made this one back in the Heian era. Gave up the ability to use it freely in exchange for it hitting stupid hard when I do. Haven't needed it since, what, 1,000 years. LMAO, I almost forgot the hand sign." He said LMAO out loud. Like a word. Because Sukuna had been listening to modern humans talk and had picked up their vocabulary out of sheer contempt for their language. A flame condensed at his fingertip. Arrow-shaped. The air around it bent. Yago's eye went wide. "Since when can you use F?" Sukuna released it. 2 city blocks stopped existing. A perfect circle of nothing where buildings used to be. Yago survived because his body went fully liquid at the last millisecond. But the cursed energy behind the arrow had scattered him across the crater in cooling globs. He pulled himself together slowly, painfully, each piece crawling back like it didn't want to. Sukuna stood at the crater's edge. Clean. Unbothered. Hands in pockets. "You still alive? Nice. Stand up." Yago stood. Barely. One arm still half liquid. Head cracked down the middle. Eye flickering. "But up." "You know what," Sukuna said, walking toward him, "you're the first one tonight that made me use that. That's worth something." Yago had nothing left. The fruit had given him time, power, a real fight, but it was still meaningless against the King of Curses. He'd thrown everything. And Sukuna was walking toward him like he'd just finished a light jog. Sukuna raised his hand. The arrow condensed again. "Last one," he said. Yago closed his eye. "Hanami. Dagon. I'll see you both soon." Sukuna drew back. And the zombie broke free. Not broke as in shattered. Broke as in broke Saba's command. It had been standing beside its creator the entire fight. Still. Obedient. Tracking Yago across the skyline with its dead eyes like a compass pointing north. Sabas had said stay and it had stayed. But now with the arrow aimed at Yago's chest, with the end 3 seconds away. Speed 20 activated. The sonic boom cracked the air. The ground split. Debris flew sideways. The zombie landed between Yago and Sukuna. Arms spread. Facing the king of curses. It sounded different. Lower. If a Minecraft mob with no vocal cords and no soul and no reason to care about anything could sound like it was saying not him, that's what it sounded like. Sukuna paused. You again, he said. Yago opened his eye. The zombie was standing in front of him, shielding him. The brain-dead, groaning, unkillable thing that had tapped his back, walked beside him, and draped its arm over his shoulder was between him and death. Why? Yago whispered. The zombie didn't answer. Couldn't answer. But it didn't move. Behind the rubble. In the dark. Sabas was crying. Full, ugly, open mouth crying. Tears and snot and the whole package. The kind of crying you do when your kid does something you never taught them. His creation had broken his command. Not because it was stronger than him. Because something inside that empty, rotting, netherite-plated body had decided against everything it was built to be, that Yago mattered more than orders. This shit peak, Sabas choked out. He wiped his face. More tears came out. This shit peak. Drop some power stones, gang. Make a review FR. Chapter 10, The Married Couple Combo. Sukuna threw a right hook at Yago. The zombie stepped in front of it. Sukuna's fist crunched into the netherite chest plate and the zombie slid back 2 feet. Yago came over the zombie 1 foot on its helmet like a stepping stool and swung a magma fist at Sukuna's jaw. Missed by an inch. Magma splattered across the street. Sukuna glanced at the zombie. Then at Yago standing on it. Keh. Using your pet as furniture now. Said the furniture. The 2v1 shouldn't have been working. One fighter was a cursed spirit on borrowed power. The other had a single brain cell dedicated entirely to stand near Volcano Man. 0 communication. 0 strategy. But because the zombie was always between Yago and danger, every attack Sukuna threw hit the zombie first. And every time Sukuna dealt with the zombie, Yago had a free window. Sukuna slashed. Zombie tanked. Yago countered. Sukuna blitzed. Zombie body blocked. Yago flanked. Sukuna tried to be clever. Zombie did something accidentally stupid that cancelled out the cleverness. Yago capitalized. The ugliest waltz in combat history. Sukuna aimed a dismantle barrage 15 slashes in 1 second. The zombie walked through every single one of them and reached Sukuna. It threw a punch. The punch connected with Sukuna's chest with all the devastating force of someone gently resting their hand on your shoulder. Sukuna looked down at the fist. Said nothing. Didn't need to. The look was enough. While Sukuna was looking at the zombie, Yago fired a Dai Funka from behind a magma fist the size of a car. Sukuna sidestepped. The fist deleted a building. TCH. Then Sukuna did something nobody recognized. No hand sign. No warning. He simply opened his palm and the air in front of him folded. A ripple spread outward and the ground in a 30-meter cone in front of him turned to dust. The molecular bonds just gave up. The zombie was standing in the cone. The wave hit it. For the first time all night, the zombie slid back 5 feet. The chest plate cracked then healed. Yago's eye went wide. What was that technique? Yago whispered. That wasn't dismantle. That wasn't cleave. I've never seen. Sukuna was already looking somewhere else. Bored. That technique shouldn't exist anymore, Yago thought. That was something from the golden age of Jujutsu. Something from the Heian era. Sukuna appeared in front of him. Yago barely dodged. Went liquid. Reformed 10 feet back. Sukuna didn't pursue. He just stood there, hands in pockets, looking at Yago the way a cat looks at a mouse that's been running for too long. You're still not using your domain, Sukuna said. Yago said nothing. Keh. Spoken like a true loser. Yago circled. Fired magma from both arms. Sukuna walked through the gap between the streams without changing pace. The zombie closed from the right. Yago attacked from the left. Pincer. The only strategy that accidentally worked, two things coming from two directions because neither of them knew what the other was doing. Sukuna dealt with both at the same time. Kicked the zombie sideways, it flew 30 feet and started walking back immediately and caught Yago's magma arm with a dismantle that scattered it into globs. Yago reformed the arm. Came again. The zombie was already back. Sukuna sighed. The sigh of something that was being mildly inconvenienced and didn't enjoy the sensation. He formed a hand sign. Old. Wrong looking. The kind of sign that belonged to a dead era. The ground beneath the zombie didn't collapse. It inverted. A perfect cube of earth flipped upside down, dropping the zombie into a pocket of reversed gravity that should not have been physically possible. Yago watched. His brain tried to process what he'd just seen. He couldn't. That technique didn't have a name. It was something from so far back in Jujutsu history that the records of it had rotted away centuries ago. And Sukuna had used it to put a zombie in a hole. "Uhuhuhuhuh," said the zombie, from the hole. It jumped out. Landed right back in front of Sukuna. Sukuna's expression didn't change. But his jaw tightened by a fraction. The fight had been going for several minutes. In the original timeline, Yago lasted 2 or 3 before Sukuna got bored. This version magma body, backup zombie had pushed past 5. Sukuna wasn't in danger. But he was being inconvenienced. He stopped moving. Yago stopped too. When Sukuna stopped, you stopped. That was instinct. That was 1,000 years of fear hardwired into cursed spirits. Sukuna raised one finger. The fire arrow condensed at the tip, the technique he'd used earlier. The one that erased city blocks. Except this time, something was different. He formed a second hand sign with his other hand while the arrow was charging. Something layered on top of something else. A technique stacked on a technique. Yago's eye went wide. He can layer cursed techniques simultaneously? That's what Gojo does with blue and red. That's supposed to be exclusive to the 6 eyes. How is he? Sukuna released both at once. The arrow flew at Yago. The second technique hit the ground and the ground beneath Yago's feet became frictionless. His magma legs couldn't grip. He slid. The arrow corrected course to follow him. The zombie stepped in. Took the arrow to the chest. The explosion ripped across the street. Dust. Debris. Crater. The zombie stood in the middle of it. Scratched. Healing. Uhuhuhuh. Sukuna looked at the zombie. 4 eyes. No expression. Then he turned away from it entirely. Done acknowledging it. It was beneath him. It couldn't die and it couldn't hurt him and therefore it didn't exist. He focused on Yago. Enough, Sukuna said. One word. The temperature in Shibuya dropped 10 degrees from the intent behind it. He disappeared. Reappeared behind Yago. Inside the zombie's guard. The one blind spot, the half-second gap between the zombie turning around and Yago reacting. One hand on Yago's face. The arrow forming in the other. Point blank. Stand proud, Sukuna said quietly. You are strong. Yago's eye widened. Hanami. Dagon. Sukuna released. And the zombie was there. Nobody saw it move. The distance didn't explain it. The timing didn't explain it. One frame the zombie was behind Sukuna. The next frame it was between them. Arms spread. Netherite catching the light from the arrow. But it didn't block the arrow this time. It threw a punch. The same nothing punch. The same wet noodle hit. The same attack that had been bouncing off everything all night like a tennis ball thrown at a mountain. The fist connected with Sukuna's jaw. And every ounce of cursed energy that had been soaking into those 10 rings all night hours of dismantles, cleaves, fire arrows, shikigami, cursed flames discharged at once through the zombie's knuckles at the exact millisecond of contact. Black flash. Black lightning split Shibuya in half. The sky inverted for one frame. The sound was reality having a coughing fit. Sukuna went flying. Through a wall. A second wall. A third. The zombie stood in the street. Fist extended. Rings crackling with fading black electricity. Fage. Silence. Yago arrow dodged by a miracle, one eye wide, body barely holding together stared at the zombie. From the rubble, 4 eyes glowed. Sukuna stood up. Rolled his jaw. His expression hadn't changed. But he touched the spot where the fist had connected. He looked at the zombie. The zombie looked at him. Sukuna said nothing for 3 full seconds. 3 seconds of the King of Curses processing that a brain-dead creature in armor had just landed a black flash on his face. Then he laughed. Keh. Low. Genuine. The laugh of something that hadn't been surprised since the Heian era. He cracked his neck. The zombie raised its fists. Behind a half-melted building. Sabas was trembling. "My son," Sabas whispered, voice shaking. "My beautiful, stupid, brain-dead son just black flashed the King of Curses." Sukuna himself. He looked up at the sky. "That's my boy." Leave a review and some comments fr. Join the Discord cuz why not? http://discard.gg/ju7hsgepmp. Chapter 11, Dome of True Love. Sukuna cracked his neck. Rolled his jaw one more time. The black flash had actually stung. He looked at the zombie. Then at Yago, barely reformed behind it. Keh. That was amusing. But playtime's over. Sukuna's cursed energy spiked. The air around him distorted. He wasn't pulling techniques out of his ass anymore. The hands came together and Yago recognized the sign before it was even finished. Malevolent Shrine. The domain manifested into reality, no barrier, no separate space. A massive Buddhist shrine materialized behind Sukuna, surrounded by skulls, radiating an aura of worship me or die. The effective range spread outward. Everything within that range was about to be shredded by cleave and dismantle until nothing remained but dust and regret. Yago's legs locked. Not from the domain. From fear. He'd felt this before. Not from Sukuna, from Gojo. Standing inside unlimited void. Watching his own domain get crushed like it was made of wet paper. The humiliation. The helplessness. The absolute certainty that his innate domain was nothing compared to what stood in front of him. Malevolent Shrine was stronger than unlimited void in a clash. Yago knew that. Everyone knew that. If Gojo's domain had eaten his alive, what would Sukuna's do? There wouldn't even be crumbs left. I can't. The magma in Yago's body dimmed. His hands dropped loosely beside him. I can't use my domain. He'll crush it. Just like Gojo did. I'll expand it and it'll last half a second and he'll look at me the same way Gojo did, like I'm nothing, and then I'll die inside my own technique. Malevolent Shrine slashes began. Invisible cuts filled the air. Everything in range started coming apart: concrete, steel, asphalt, reality itself being diced into smaller and smaller pieces. Yago closed his eye. Hanami. Dagon. I'm sorry. I wasn't strong enough to. Lover. Yago's eye snapped open. The zombie was standing in front of him. Facing him. Not facing Sukuna. Facing Jogo. Arms at its sides. Netherite scratched but holding. Rings dimly glowing. Its mouth was open. And it was talking. Not groaning. Not fage. Talking. In a voice that sounded like gravel being dragged through a washing machine, but with actual words. Actual sentences. Actual intent. The black flash had done something. The cursed energy that had discharged through the zombie's fist, the accumulated residue of an entire night of combat, had jolted something awake inside that single brain cell. Conviction. Lover, the zombie said again. Its voice was horrible. Wet. Like someone had taught a blender to speak. But the word was clear. What? Yago said. The bells, of the Jun Monastery. The zombie started. Yago stared. Sukuna's slashes were getting closer. Buildings around them were being diced. Dust filled the air. Echo with the warning, that all things, are impermanent. What are you doing? The blossoms, of the sala trees, teach us through their hues, that what flourishes, must fade. The zombie took one step forward. Its dead eyes empty, soulless, unchanged since the moment of its creation, locked onto Yago's single eye with something that had no business being there. Sincerity. However. The zombie's voice cracked through the chaos like a thunderclap made of phlegm. We are the exception. Silence. Even the slashes seemed to pause. Even the dust seemed to hang. Lover, the zombie said. You are a volcano amongst candles. Do not limit yourself. Do not let the blindfolded one's shadow keep you small. Will you leave your lover behind, Yago? You're not my. Will you leave your lover behind? The zombie grabbed Yago's shoulders. Both hands. Netherite gauntlets on cursed spirit skin. Its horrible, wet, gravel blender voice dropped low. What have you been entrusted with? You don't need to answer now. But until you find your answer. Never. Stop. Burning. The zombie let go. Stepped back. And groaned one final time. Fage. But this time the groan meant something. It meant I believe in you. It meant expand your domain, you beautiful idiot. It meant I didn't black flash the king of curses just for you to give up. Behind his half-melted building, Sabas was bawling. Who taught him that speech? Sabas choked. I didn't program that. Where did he learn words? He has one brain cell. Something cracked inside Yago. Not his body. Not his cursed energy. The wall. The one Gojo had put there when he crushed Coffin of the Iron Mountain like it was nothing. The wall that said your domain is worthless. The wall that had kept Yago from expanding his domain against Sukuna this entire fight. The zombie had just punched through it. With a speech. Yago's magma surged. His body erupted, magma pouring off him in waves that liquefied the ground in a 10-meter radius. His single eye burned with something it hadn't had all night. Confidence. Fine, Yago said. Fine. He slammed his hands together. Domain expansion, Coffin of the Iron Mountain. The volcano manifested. Not the old one. Not the coffin that Gojo had crushed. The Megya no Mi had rewritten it from the inside out. The domain that erupted around Yago was a supervolcano, a churning, screaming, apocalyptic hellscape of magma and cursed earth. The heat inside would have turned a normal sorcerer to gas. The ground was liquid. The sky was smoke. The walls were flowing rock. Coffin of the Iron Mountain, Magma Edition. It clashed with Malevolent Shrine immediately. The two domains pushed against each other, Sukuna's open barrier raining cleave and dismantle against the walls of Yago's enclosed volcano. The slashes carved into the barrier. But it held. Sukuna raised an eyebrow. The first genuine eyebrow raise of the fight. He actually expanded it, Sukuna thought. Then the zombie clapped its hands together. Nobody expected this. Nobody could have expected this. The zombie, a Minecraft mob with 10 rings and sentience it had acquired roughly 45 seconds ago, pressed its netherite gauntlets together and said, Domain expansion. Those two words, spoken in a voice like wet cement being stirred, made every sorcerer in a 3-block radius turn their head. Dome of True Love. The zombie's domain expanded. And it was beautiful. It was a garden. A wide, sunlit, peaceful garden filled with flowers that shouldn't exist, colors that had no names, petals that glowed softly, grass that looked like it had never known a single bad day. The sky above was clear and warm. A gentle breeze carried the scent of something that could only be described as the feeling of being loved unconditionally by something that shouldn't know love. In the center of the garden was a bench. On the bench was a sign. The sign read, "Reserved for Yago. 3 domains." Simultaneously. Malevolent Shrine, open barrier, cleave and dismantle, shredding everything in range. Coffin of the Iron Mountain, enclosed volcano, supercharged with magma, holding against Sukuna's slashes. Dome of True Love, an enclosed garden of pure affection that had absolutely no business existing in the same postcode as the other two. The 3-way clash created something that hadn't happened in Jujutsu history. The barriers pushed against each other. The sure hit effects cancelled out in the overlapping zones. The fabric of space in Shibuya began to warp from the conflicting domains: skull-adorned shrine, erupting supervolcano, and sunny garden, all layered on top of each other like the universe's most confusing sandwich. Inside the overlap, petals fell through magma. Skulls rolled across grass. Flowers grew from volcanic rock and immediately caught fire, which the garden's domain instantly regrew. Malevolent shrine slashes carved through flower beds that reformed before the cuts finished. It was chaos. It was beautiful. It was the dumbest thing that had ever happened in the history of Jujutsu sorcery. Sukuna stood in the middle of all 3 domains, 4 eyes scanning the impossible landscape around him. A petal landed on his shoulder. He looked at it. The petal was warm. Not cursed energy warm. Emotionally warm. It radiated a feeling that Sukuna had not experienced in 1,000 years and had never wanted to experience again. Comfort. He flicked it off. Another one landed. He flicked it. 3 more landed. He flicked them all. They kept coming. The Dome of True Love's sure hit wasn't damage. It wasn't slashes or fire or soul manipulation. It was affection. The domain's guaranteed hit made you feel loved. Unconditionally. Relentlessly. Whether you wanted to or not. "What is this domain?" Sukuna said. His voice was flat. But his left eye, the bottom left one, twitched. The zombie stood in its garden. Flowers around its feet. Netherite covered in petals. Dead eyes somehow radiating warmth. "True love," the zombie said. "Stop that. Cursed technique, true love." I said stop. "You are appreciated, Sukuna. I will end you. Someone cares about you." Sukuna's composure cracked for exactly 1/4 of a second. The king of curses, the being who had murdered thousands, who had dominated the Heian era, who feared nothing and no one flinched at the words "someone cares about you." He expanded Malevolent Shrine's output. Cleave and dismantle intensified. The slashes tore through the garden, shredding flowers, cutting grass, carving the bench in half. The garden regrew instantly. The bench reformed. A new sign appeared on it. "Sukuna is valued." The 3-way domain clash lasted 11 seconds. 11 seconds of skulls and flowers and magma existing in the same space. 11 seconds of Sukuna being told he was loved while simultaneously trying to kill everyone. 11 seconds of Yago's volcano holding against Malevolent Shrine because the Dome of True Love's barrier was absorbing part of the slash output. The affection-based domain was so fundamentally different from the other two that it created interference patterns in the cursed energy flow, disrupting Sukuna's guaranteed hit. The zombie's domain wasn't strong. It wasn't refined. It was an incomplete, messy domain that had been invented by a creature that had learned to talk 3 minutes ago. But it was genuine. And in a 3-way domain clash, genuine counted for something. Yago used those 11 seconds. He poured everything into coffin of the Iron Mountain. Every drop of cursed energy. Every ounce of the Megya no Mi's power. The volcano domain screamed. Magma erupted from every surface. The temperature inside went from lethal to theoretical. The domains collapsed. All three. Simultaneously. The barriers shattered. The garden vanished. The volcano vanished. Malevolent shrine flickered and dissolved. Everyone's cursed technique burned out. Sukuna. Yago. The zombie. All standing in the ruins of Shibuya, techniques exhausted, domains gone. 11 seconds. That's all they got. But for 11 seconds, a volcano, a shrine, and a garden had existed together. And the King of Curses had been told he was valued. He would never forgive that. Hit that power stone button and slide some comments over. Show your true curse technique lab to me KCN fans. Chapter 12, with this treasure, I summon fraud. Labotomi Kaisen fans, I need your power. Raise your hands, give me your ideas, I need them. Sukuna stopped laughing. His 4 eyes snapped east. Something had just been summoned in Shibuya. He looked at Yago. Exhausted. Technique burned out. The zombie beside him in the same state. Sukuna turned his back and left. Just gone. Yago stood in the crater. No energy. The zombie beside him, equally spent, arm linked with his. Sabas dropped from a rooftop in front of them. That was fun, Sabas said. Yago stared at him. Too exhausted for words. Sabas clapped his hands together. A portal opened behind Yago and the zombie. Warm light. The sound of wind through grass. Volcanic hot springs on the other side, because Sabas figured Volcano Boy would appreciate that. In you go, Sabas said. Nice dimension. Quiet. No sorcerers. Just you and my son. Honeymoon destination. I'm not going on a honeymoon with a. The zombie gently took Yago's arm and walked through the portal. Yago got dragged with it. Wait. The portal closed. Godspeed, son-in-law, Sabas said. Sabas turned east. Toward where Sukuna had gone. He took one step. His one remaining shoe found a banana peel. A banana peel. In the middle of a war zone. A single, inexplicable banana peel lying on the ground, like the universe had placed it there personally to remind Sabas that he would never be allowed to have a cool moment. His foot went forward. His body went backward. Arms windmilled. Wig. Face first. Into the concrete. Again. He lay there. Every time, he muttered. He got up. Looked at the banana peel. Who is eating bananas during an apocalypse? He kicked it into the void and kept walking. He found the fight 3 blocks east. Sukuna was mid-exchange with Mahoraga the Divine General, towering, white, a wheel spinning above its head every time it adapted to an attack. Megami was on the ground nearby, unconscious, barely alive. Sabas crouched behind rubble. Mahoraga swung. Sukuna dodged. Counter. The wheel spun. Adapting. Mahoraga tanked the next hit better than the last. Sukuna hit harder. Mahoraga adapted. Sukuna switched techniques. Mahoraga adapted to that too. The wheel kept spinning. Every exchange, the Divine General got tougher. Sabas watched. Eyes wide. Taking it in. Yo, he whispered. That big white dude just learns? Mid-fight? That's his whole deal. Mahoraga punched Sukuna through a building. Sukuna came back grinning. Sabas stared at Mahoraga. White. Completely white. You know what would be funny? He reached behind his back. In the middle of a fight between the King of Curses and a Divine General that had been untamed for the entire history of the 10 Shadows technique, a man with one shoe walked into the intersection. Both combatants stopped. Sukuna glanced at him. 4 eyes. Flat. Mahoraga's wheel went still. Sabas stood between them. Arms raised. Fists clenched. The exact summoning pose. He took a deep breath. With this treasure, I summon. Pause. Dramatic. Held the pose. Let it cook. 8-handled sword divergent Sela divine general. Longer pause. Sukuna's eyes narrowed a fraction. Black Mahoraga. The shadow behind Sabas erupted. A figure rose from the darkness. Same towering frame as Mahoraga. Same build. Same wheel. Same sword arm. Completely black. Jet black. The photonegative of the original. It stood behind Sabas. Massive. Looking around like it had just woken up and wasn't entirely sure what was going on. Sukuna looked at it. Then away. Already disinterested. Mahoraga looked at it. Then back at Sukuna. Didn't care about the knockoff. This, Sabas announced, gesturing behind him with both hands, is my greatest creation. Neither of them reacted. Its cursed technique, Sabas continued, undeterred, is stealing. It steals techniques. Touches you, takes your moves. Imagine Mahoraga's adaptation, but instead of learning your attacks it just yoinks them straight out of your cursed energy. Gone. His now. One touch and your whole toolkit belongs to. Sukuna raised one finger. Sabas was still talking. My boy Black Mahoraga, the greatest divine general ever conceived, an unstoppable force of pure offensive. A single dismantle crossed the intersection. Power that will revolutionize the entire concept of Shikigami combat and redefine what it means to. Black Mahoraga split in half. Both halves hit the ground with a wet thud. The black wheel clattered. The sword arm rolled away. The two pieces lay in the street like a jigsaw puzzle that someone had given up on. 9 seconds of existence. One casual slash. Not even a named technique. Just a flick of Sukuna's finger while Sabas was mid-sentence. Sabas's mouth was still open. His hands were still gesturing. His brain was 3 seconds behind the reality of what had just happened. He looked at the two halves of Black Mahoraga. Then at Sukuna. Then at the two halves again. No. Sabas fell to his knees. My son. He killed my son. He crawled to Black Mahoraga's upper half. Grabbed it. Speak to me. Say something. Use your stealing technique. Steal his technique. Steal anything. Steal a will to live. Black Mahoraga did not respond because Black Mahoraga was in 2 pieces and had been alive for less time than it takes to microwave a hot pocket. He didn't even get to touch anyone, Sabas wailed. His whole thing was touching people and he didn't touch a single person. What was the point? What was the point of all that drip if he dies immediately? Sukuna had already turned back to the real Mahoraga. The actual fight resumed. Neither of them spared another glance at the shoeless man crying over a dead knockoff in the middle of the street. Sabas knelt there. Holding half a divine general. Tears streaming. I gave you the chant, Sabas whispered. I gave you the color scheme. I gave you a cursed technique. All you had to do was touch him one time. He sniffed. All offense no defense. I'm a terrible father. He gently laid Black Mahoraga's upper half down. Stood up. Wiped his eyes. Looked at Sukuna fighting the real Mahoraga. The wheel spinning. Adaptation after adaptation. Sukuna pulling techniques from 1,000 years ago right out of his ass. The two strongest beings in Shibuya going blow for blow. Sabas sat down on Black Mahoraga's torso like a bench. Crossed his legs. Manifested a drink. I'm not making another son for at least 3 chapters. Yo, make a review and shit comment PLS cuz funny to read YK. Also join the Discord cuz again why not? http://discard.gg/ju7hsgepmp. Sabas is cool. Chapter 13, The Author Gets Hands. Sabas sat on the top half of Black Mahoraga's corpse, watching Sukuna fight the real one. A notification appeared in front of his face. Just text. Floating in the air. Like someone had typed it directly into his reality. R3M0RYXVX7, you won't write about your son. No problem, write about your daughter. Sabas stared at it. Who the fuck is R3M0RYXVX7? He squinted at the floating text. Read it again. Daughter? What daughter? I don't have a daughter. I have a zombie son who just got married to a volcano and a black Mahoraga who lasted 9 seconds. I'm not built for parenthood. Hell nah. The text disappeared. Sabas sat there for a moment. The fight between Sukuna and Mahoraga raged in the background. Buildings were exploding. The wheel was spinning. The King of Curses was having the time of his life. But Sabas wasn't watching anymore. Something felt wrong. Reality wrong. Like someone was writing this. Like the words coming out of his mouth weren't entirely his. Like there was a man sitting somewhere at a desk, wearing headphones, probably procrastinating on something important, typing every single thing he said and did. Sabas looked up. Nah. He looked down. Unless. Looking up again. I see you. Author's note, okay, so at this point I, the actual author, was sitting at my desk at 2 AM working on this chapter. Headphones in. Spotify on shuffle. Monster energy half finished. The usual. I was mid-sentence literally typing the part where Sabas watches Sukuna fight Mahoraga when Spotify decided to hit me with the Prowler's theme. You know the one. The spooky one. I didn't cue it. I didn't have it in any playlist. It just appeared. Like the algorithm was possessed. I paused. Took my headphones off one ear. Because the music wasn't just coming from the headphones. It was coming from behind me. I turned around. There was a man in my room. He was standing directly behind my chair. One shoe on. Shirt torn. Slightly smoking from what appeared to be recent proximity to magma. He was reading my screen, reading the chapter, reading the words I was typing about him. He looked at me. I looked at him. The Prowler's theme was still playing. Yo, who the fuck are you? I said, falling out of my chair. Sabas tilted his head. Bitch, Sabas said, did you just talk back to me? This is my room. His fist connected with my face before the sentence finished. I want to describe the hit accurately. I want to convey the physics. The velocity. The impact. But I can't, because I was unconscious before my brain registered that a fictional character had just punched me in my own bedroom at 2 AM while the Prowler's theme played in the background. I hit the floor. My chair rolled into the wall. My monster energy fell over. Sabas looked down at me. Unconscious. Sprawled on the floor. Glasses crooked. One AirPod still in. Yeah, take that, monkey boy, Sabas said. He looked at my screen. The chapter was still open. The cursor was blinking. He read the last few lines. What a bum, he's not even a good writer, Sabas muttered. He scrolled up. Read chapter 12. He killed Black Mahoraga instantly. That was supposed to be my greatest creation. This guy has no respect for my craft. He scrolled further. Read the part where he slips on the banana peel. And he keeps making me fall over. That's not funny. That's not okay, that's a little funny but still. Sabas cracked his knuckles. Looked at the screen one more time. Then at me. Then at the screen. He leaned over the keyboard and typed 3 words at the bottom of the chapter. Sabas is cool. Then he opened a portal in the middle of my room and stepped through. My room smelled like magma for 3 days. I woke up 40 minutes later with a bruise shaped like a fist. Sabas stepped out of the portal back into Shibuya. The fight was over. Mahoraga was gone, nothing left but the 8-handled wheel, cracked and dissolving on the ground. Sukuna stood in the middle of a 140-meter circle of absolute nothing. No buildings. No street. No people. Just flat, barren, scorched earth. The entire area had been shaved down to dust by malevolent shrine and then finished off with the fire arrow. Hundreds of civilians were dead. Tajinumaki was missing an arm somewhere. The curse user who'd been involved in the ritual was sliced in half from a delayed dismantle he didn't know he'd been hit with. Sukuna stood alone in the destruction. 4 eyes scanning the horizon. Calm. Satisfied. Then he paused. His 4 eyes narrowed slightly. That man, Sukuna said quietly. He was thinking about Sabas. The shoeless one. The one who'd appeared from nowhere, moved faster than him, faster than the king of curses, and summoned a black knockoff of a divine general that lasted less time than a sneeze. Strange, Sukuna murmured. No cursed energy. No technique I could read. He moved faster than me for an instant. And that creature he summoned worthless, but the method of creation was unlike anything from any era. He flexed his hand. The one that had been burned by Yago's magma. Healed long ago. But the memory remained. The volcano spirit's sudden power change. The undead creature that couldn't be killed. That domain made of affection. Sukuna's lip curled. All connected to that man. He stood in silence for a moment. Then he shook his head. Dismissing it. Whatever that shoeless man was, he wasn't relevant to Sukuna's plans. Megami Fushiguro was relevant. The vessel switch was relevant. That man was a footnote. A strange, fast, inexplicable footnote who smelled like another dimension and had the survival instincts of a lemming. Irrelevant, Sukuna decided. He felt his control over Yuji's body weakening. The finger's hold was fading. Time was running out. Sukuna had already dropped Megami off at the Shibuya toll gate, appeared for half a second in front of Shoko and Yaga, deposited the unconscious boy, and vanished before they could process what they'd seen. Megami would live. That was all that mattered for his plans. Now for the final act. Sukuna walked back to the epicenter of his destruction. The spot in front of what used to be Shibuya 109. The area he'd personally turned into a wasteland. Bodies. Rubble. Silence. He felt Yuji pushing from inside. Fighting to regain control. Clawing his way back. Sukuna let him. But not before positioning himself perfectly in the center of the devastation. Standing among the dead. Surrounded by the consequences of power that Yuji's body had been used to deliver. Take a good look, Sukuna said. He relinquished control. Yuji's eyes opened. His own eyes. And the first thing he saw was hell. Chapter 14, Aura. Yo, you guys are freaky. Stop it, I am not writing smut skull. Yuji opened his eyes. The first thing he saw was nothing. Nothing. Where buildings used to be, there was flat earth. Where streets used to be, there was dust. Where people used to be, he couldn't finish the thought. He looked at his hands. Yuji grabbed his face. The sound that came out of him wasn't a scream. It was something worse. He doubled over. Vomited. Fell to his knees. His fingers clawed at the ground, dragging through ash, leaving streaks in what used to be Shibuya. Die, Yuji whispered. His nails scraped concrete. Only I should die. His forehead hit the ground. Die. 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 Tears mixed with ash. The boy who'd eaten a cursed finger to save his friends was lying in the crater his body had made, begging himself to stop existing. 60 seconds passed. Then his grandfather's words came back. The execution order. The fact that if he died here, his existence was nothing more than a weapon that went off. If this continues, I'm nothing but a murderer. His fingers stopped scraping. I have to fight. He stood up, shaking, eyes swollen, face covered in ash and tears. He looked forward, and saw the single most dripped-out human being he had ever witnessed in his life. Sabas was standing on a lamp post. Standing. 1 foot on the very top, perfectly balanced, arms crossed, chin raised, looking at absolutely nothing with the energy of a man who had been placed on this earth specifically to go hard at all times. Hard? He was wearing new clothes. Long black coat open, flowing, tailored to the point of absurdity. High-collared dark shirt. Black trousers. Actual boots. Both feet covered for the first time in 13 chapters. And the cape. The cape. Long dark. Moving in a wind that did not exist. There was no breeze in Shibuya. The air was dead. Every flag hung limp. But Sabas's cape was flowing. Billowing. Doing the anime thing. The invisible wind thing. The universe had assigned this man a personal weather system and it only produced dramatic gusts. He wasn't looking at Yuji. Wasn't looking at anything. He was simply existing on a lamp post in full drip doing absolutely nothing with more presence than most people bring to their entire lives. Yuji stared. His brain broken, traumatized, running on grief produced one thought that had no business being there. Why is this guy go so hard? Behind a collapsed wall, 2 figures were watching. One was 7 feet tall. Bald. Pointed ears. White cape and turban. Arms crossed. Piccolo. The other was shorter. Bowl cut. Purple GI. Looking between Sabas and Piccolo with the wide eyes of a kid who'd been dragged to something he didn't fully understand. Gohan. Etch this moment into your brain, Gohan, Piccolo said, not looking away from Sabas. You might not witness a kid around your age with so much aura again. Okay, Gohan said. Let's not turn this trip into some sort of lecture, right, Piccolo? Piccolo didn't respond because Piccolo was already deep into it. Gohan looked at Sabas on the lamp post. The cape. The stance. The chin angle. The invisible wind. Can I reach such heights? Gohan whispered. Stop taking this seriously, Piccolo said, even though he was taking it more seriously than anything he'd taken seriously since the Cell games. The cape billowed. Gohan leaned forward. Is that really an aura farming technique? What you're witnessing, Piccolo said, his voice dropping, is aura dynamics. Hey! Aura dynamics, Gohan. What's a third voice came from behind them. Low. Gravelly. Familiar. I didn't know you also attended these events. Piccolo and Gohan turned. Vegeta was leaning against a piece of rubble. Arms crossed. Exactly the same pose as Piccolo. He'd been there for an unknown amount of time. You think I'll miss witnessing this? Vegeta said. Gohan looked between the 2 adults who were both staring at a man standing on a lamp post like it was the World Martial Arts Tournament. It's actually a thing, Piccolo continued, turning back to Sabas. Aura dynamics. The ability to not lose aura while in motion. Commonly used while walking down a hill, Vegeta added, trying to maintain your aura. Or better yet, Piccolo said, when you're about to cross a road and a car decides to wait for you to pass. Both of them nodded. You can then hit them with the aura dynamics, Vegeta said, instead of doing the awkward little jog people do. Gohan's eyes went wide. Every time Chi-Chi sent him to the shops and a car waited at the crossing, he did the grateful half-run. The sorry wave. The hunched shoulders. 0 aura retained. He looked at Sabas on the lamp post. The cape. The stillness. This man had never done the jog. This man had never even considered the jog. Cars waited for him and he let them. A very effective technique, Piccolo said. Sabas shifted his weight on the lamp post. Just enough for the cape to catch a new invisible current and billow in the opposite direction. He just changed his cape direction without wind, Gohan said. Mid-stance aerodynamic adjustment, Piccolo said. Only the highest level practitioners can do that. Somewhere below, a piece of rubble finally gave way and a chunk of building fell from a damaged structure. It plummeted toward the ground directly beneath Sabas's lamp post. Sabas didn't move. The rubble hit the ground and shattered 3 feet from the lamp post's base. The lamp post didn't wobble. Sabas didn't blink. The cape kept flowing. He could have died, Gohan said. What? Piccolo said. No, I mean that rubble almost he could have. What's the saying, Gohan? Piccolo said, turning to his student with the gravitas of a man passing down ancient wisdom. Gohan looked at him. It's better to die with aura, Piccolo said, than to live without aura. Vegeta nodded. HN. Gohan stared at both of them. Then at Sabas. Then back at them. Then he pulled out a notepad and started writing. What are you doing? Piccolo asked. Taking notes, Gohan said. Yuji was still staring at Sabas. He didn't know about aerodynamics. He didn't see the 3 Dragon Ball characters analyzing a man on a lamp post from behind a wall. He didn't know that the cape had a 40% aura bonus or that the mid-stance directional adjustment was a high-level technique. All he saw was a man who looked like he had never once in his life apologized for existing. And somehow that was enough to make Yuji take one more step forward. Sabas still didn't look at him. The cape billowed. Yuji walked toward Shibuya Station. Toward whatever came next. Behind the wall, Piccolo watched him go. The aura reached him, Piccolo said. Vegeta uncrossed his arms. Crossed them again. HN. Not bad. Gohan was still writing. Hit that review and hit that power stone button FR. And comment down below. Chapter 15, You Valid, Suit Guy. Nanami was walking through Shibuya Station. Half his body was charred. One eye gone. Suit destroyed on the left side. Sword in his right hand, barely gripped. He was thinking about Malaysia. A house on a beach. Books he never read. He'd cut through a dozen transfigured humans on autopilot. Grade 1 muscle memory doing work his mind had clocked out of 10 minutes ago. Then Mahito appeared in front of him. The cursed spirit stepped out from a photo booth he'd been hiding in like a gremlin. Hand already reaching for Nanami's chest. Grinning. We go way back, don't we, Nanami? Mahito said. Want to chat? Nanami didn't respond. He looked to his right. A Vision Habara, his dead friend, pointing down the corridor. Nanami followed the gesture. Yuji was there. Just entered the station. Running toward them. Eyes wide. Already horrified. I don't want to curse this boy with my final words, Nanami thought. He smiled. Itatari. You've got it from. Mahito's hand pressed against Nanami's chest. Idle transfiguration activating. 1 second from detonation. A hand grabbed Nanami by the back of the neck. Not Mahito's. Not Yuji's. A hand that came from nowhere appearing behind Nanami between one frame of reality and the next, fingers closing around his collar with the casual grip of a man picking up a jacket off a chair. Nanami vanished. Mahito's hand closed on empty air. His fingers touched nothing. The chest that had been there, the target, the kill, the finale was gone. Mahito blinked. What? Yuji, mid-sprint down the corridor, stopped dead. Both of them looked to the right. Sabas was standing 10 feet away. Full drip. Cape. Both boots. Holding Nanami by the back of his collar like a cat someone had picked up by the scruff. One arm extended. Not even looking at Mahito or Yuji. Looking slightly upward. At nothing. The cape was doing the thing. The invisible wind thing. In an underground station with zero airflow, the fabric rippled outward in slow, dramatic waves that had no source and no explanation. He wasn't moving. Wasn't speaking. Just standing there, arm out, holding a grown man by the neck, radiating the kind of energy that made the corridor feel like a photo shoot. Behind a support pillar because they were still here, they had been following Sabas through Shibuya like wildlife researchers tracking a rare animal. Piccolo and Gohan watched. "Gohan," Piccolo said. "Did you see that?" He grabbed him mid-death scene, Gohan whispered. "A mid-combat or a dynamic grab? Do you understand how difficult that is?" He teleported, snatched a man by the collar, repositioned 10 feet sideways, and landed in a pose. Not a single point of aura was lost during the transition. That's possible. Most practitioners lose 40 to 60% of their aura during rapid movement. The jog effect. The scramble. The panic repositioning. But this man, Piccolo pointed at Sabas, executed a combat teleport while holding another human being and came out the other side looking like a magazine cover. Gohan was scribbling in his notepad. Aura retention during teleportation, 100%. He's not even looking at them, Piccolo continued. He's holding a man like a shopping bag and giving the camera an angle. There is no camera. He's giving an angle to the concept of being watched. That's aura dynamics operating at a theoretical level. Can I learn this? Fuck nah. Vegeta, leaning against a wall further back, nodded once. Flawless entry. Sabas finally looked at Nanami. The man was dangling from his grip, one remaining eye wide, brain trying to process what had just happened. "Yo," Sabas said. "You the suit guy?" "What? You walk into a war zone in a full suit. You fight curses in a tie. You got your body burned to shit and you're still walking around looking for your students instead of getting healed." Sabas set Nanami down. "You valid as fuck, cuh." He flicked his fingers. Nanami's body lit up. Every wound closed. Every burn reversed. Both eyes back. Suit repaired. 3 seconds. Done. Nanami stood there. Fully healed. Both eyes blinking. Suit pristine. Feeling better than he had since before Shibuya started. "Who? Don't worry about it, lil brother." Sabas turned invisible. Mahito stared at the spot where Sabas had been. Yuji stared at Nanami. Nanami stared at his own hands. Nobody understood what had just happened. "Nanami." Yuji closed the distance. Eyes wet. The boy looked like he'd been through 7 kinds of hell. "I'm fine, Itadori." Nanami flexed his hand around his blade. "No pain. Full strength." Whatever that man did was beyond anything he'd ever experienced. He looked at Yuji. Then at Mahito at the end of the corridor. "Let's finish this," Nanami said. Mahito was still standing there. His grin had returned but something behind it was recalculating. His kill had been snatched from his fingers by someone he couldn't see, and now the half-dead sorcerer he'd been about to erase was standing at full health in a clean suit. "I don't know what just happened," Mahito said, "but it doesn't matter. I'll just kill you again." Nanami adjusted his tie. "You can try." Mahito lunged. His right arm morphed mid-stride into a bladed spike aimed at Nanami's throat. Nanami sidestepped left, letting the spike pass his jaw by an inch, and brought his sword up in a diagonal slash across Mahito's extended arm. The ratio technique activated on contact. The blade found the structural weak point at the elbow joint and the forearm separated clean. Mahito didn't flinch. He reformed the arm before it hit the ground and swung the regenerated fist at Nanami's ribs. Nanami blocked with the flat of his blade, absorbing the impact with bent knees, then shoved forward to create space. Yuji came from behind Mahito. He'd circled during the exchange. Feet quiet, approach low. His right fist drove into the back of Mahito's skull. The curse's head snapped forward. His body lurched. Mahito spun, turning the momentum into a backhanded swing with an elongated arm. Yuji ducked under it. The arm sailed over his head and crashed into a support pillar, cracking the concrete. Nanami was already closing. He stepped inside Mahito's guard while the curse was overextended from the backhand. His blade came down in a vertical chop aimed at the collarbone. Mahito twisted sideways, letting his torso go soft to absorb the cut. The blade sank in but couldn't find purchase in the liquefied flesh. Mahito grabbed the blade with his bare hand and kicked Nanami in the chest. The Grade 1 sorcerer skidded back 5 feet but kept his balance. Yuji filled the gap instantly. He jumped off the wall to his left, used the height to come down on Mahito with a hammer fist aimed at the crown of his head. Mahito raised both arms to block. The hammer fist connected and drove him down to one knee. The floor cracked beneath him. Yuji followed up with a knee aimed at Mahito's face, but the curse rolled sideways, reformed his arms, and created distance. "Not bad," Mahito said, breathing harder than before. "The two of you are annoying." "Good," Nanami said. Mahito switched tactics. He split. His body divided down the middle. 2 Mahitos. One real, one clone. Identical. Clone Mahito bolted down a side corridor. "Don't chase it," Nanami said immediately. "He wants to separate us. The clone can't use idle transfiguration." "The real one?" A voice echoed from the side corridor. "I found one. Nobara." She'd re-entered the station against orders. Because Nobara Kuchisaki didn't take orders. She'd found the clone. Or the clone had found her. Kuchisaki Nanami started. The Mahitos swapped. One blink. The real Mahito and the clone switched positions. The thing in front of Nobara was no longer the harmless copy. It was the real one. His hand reached out. Nobara didn't see the switch. Nobody did. Palm open. Fingers extended. Contact. Nobara's body froze. Something inside her shifted. Not bones. Not muscles. Her soul. She looked at Yuji. He was running toward her. Screaming her name. She thought about Fumi. About Sayori. About the village she hated and the school she loved. She placed her hand over the left side of her face. "It wasn't so bad," she said. The left side of her face split open. She fell. Yuji stopped. Nanami stopped. Mahito stood over Nobara's body. Grinning. Yuji's legs buckled. He hit the floor. Everything Choso, Sukuna's rampage, and now this crashed into him at once. Mahito walked toward him. Shaped his arm into a mantis blade. Raised it over Yuji's head. Nanami moved. Put himself between them. Blade up. "You'll have to go through me first," Nanami said. Mahito tilted his head. Gladly. A clap. A single, thunderous, building-shaking clap that made every surface in the station rattle. Mahito's body swapped positions with something behind him. He stumbled suddenly 15 feet from where he'd been, facing the wrong way. A man stood where Mahito had been. Tall. Muscular. Hair tied up. Jacket open. Shoulders that blocked the corridor. "Aoi Todo." He looked at Yuji on the ground. Then at Nanami. Then at Nobara. Then at Mahito. The bells of the Jun Monastery echo with the warning that all things are impermanent. The blossoms of the Sala trees teach us through their hues that what flourishes must fade. He cracked his neck. However, we are the exception. Hit that collection, Power Stone, and comment down. Also join the Discord. YK might make +1 chapter in the Discord first, then hear YK. Zgta 6x. Chapter 16, Who? 3-on-1. Mahito had fought Yuji and Nanami before, but Todo only heard of him. He had never fought all three at the same time. Todo moved first. He closed the distance in 2 strides, right fist already cocked. Mahito raised his left arm to block Todo's punch connected with the guard, and the sound it made echoed through the station like a car door slamming. Mahito's feet slid back. Before he could reset, Nanami appeared on his left. Blade already mid-swing. The ratio technique hummed along the edge. Mahito jerked his head backward. The blade missed his throat by a centimeter and sliced through the collar of his shirt instead. Yuji came from below. He'd dropped to a slide during Nanami's swing, skating across the floor on his knees, and drove his fist upward into Mahito's stomach. The curse folded. Spit flew. His body lifted off the ground from the impact. Todo clapped. Mahito's body swapped positions with Yuji's. Suddenly the curse was behind Nanami and Yuji was where Mahito had been. Nanami didn't hesitate. He reversed his grip and stabbed backward without looking. The blade caught Mahito in the shoulder. Mahito ripped himself off the blade by liquefying his shoulder. Reformed. Jumped back. Put distance between himself and the 3 sorcerers. He was breathing hard. 3 exchanges. He'd taken 4 hits and landed 0. This, Mahito said, is so unfair. Nobody disagreed. Todo cracked his knuckles. Nanami adjusted his grip. Yuji raised his fists. They came again. Nanami led the second assault. He feinted high with his blade. Mahito flinched upward to guard his face, and Todo exploited the opening with a straight kick to Mahito's exposed ribs. The curse bent sideways from the force. Yuji was already airborne, having jumped off Todo's back like a springboard, and brought both fists down on the top of Mahito's head in a double hammer fist. Mahito cratered into the floor. Dust erupted. Before he could reform, Nanami drove his blade downward into the crater. The ratio technique split the ground around Mahito's body, cracking the foundation. Mahito's arm shot out of the dust and grabbed Nanami's ankle. He pulled. Nanami stumbled and Mahito launched himself upward head first into Nanami's chin. Todo clapped. Nanami swapped with Yuji. Mahito's headbutt connected with Yuji's forehead instead, and Yuji headbutted back. Their skulls collided. Mahito's head caved slightly from the impact. Yuji didn't even blink. "Ow," Mahito said. Yuji grabbed Mahito by the face and slammed him into the floor. Then picked him up and slammed him again. Then again. From somewhere in the station, invisible, standing behind a collapsed vending machine, Sabas watched. The 3 sorcerers were taking turns beating Mahito like he owed them money. Todo would swap positions with Boogie Woogie to keep Mahito disoriented. Nanami would find the weak point and cut. Yuji would hit whatever was left. It was a mauling. Sabas yawned. "This is too one-sided," he muttered. He reached behind his back. Into somewhere. And pulled out a small golden egg. He flicked it across the station. The egg arced through the air, spinning end over end, and cracked against Mahito's back mid-beating. Todo's fist came down toward Mahito's face. Mahito turned into a chicken. A completely normal, standard, white-feathered, bead-eyed, confused-looking chicken standing exactly where a special-grade cursed spirit had been half a second ago. Todo's fist sailed through empty air. The chicken looked up at him. "Bok," said the chicken. Todo stared. Nanami stared. Yuji stared. The chicken pecked the ground. Then reformed. Mahito. Full size. Standing. Already swinging. His fist caught Todo across the jaw before the sorcerer's brain had finished rebooting. Todo stumbled back. Mahito pressed the attack, drove a knee into Todo's stomach, then spun toward Nanami with an elbow. Nanami blocked the elbow with his blade. Pushed back. Swung at Mahito's neck. Chicken. The blade passed through air above a hen that was already waddling sideways. Mahito reformed to Nanami's left outside his guard and kicked him in the ribs. Nanami skidded across the floor. Yuji charged in to cover him. Right hook aimed at Mahito's temple. Chicken. Yuji's fist hit nothing. The chicken was between his legs. Then it wasn't. Mahito reformed behind Yuji, fist already loaded. The punch connected with the back of Yuji's head. But it wasn't a normal punch. Cursed energy hit within 0.000001 seconds of physical contact. Black flash. Black lightning cracked through the corridor. Yuji went flying. He hit the wall so hard the concrete spider webbed behind him. Mahito stood where Yuji had been. Fist extended. Eyes wide. Black sparks crackling around his knuckles. He'd gone chicken to slip behind his opponent and landed a black flash on the counter. "Oh," Mahito said, looking at his fist. "Oh, this is nice." From behind the vending machine, Sabas pumped his fist. "There we go. Now it's a fight." Mahito was cooking now. Todo came in with a flying knee. Chicken. Todo's knee hit air. Mahito reformed on Todo's back, wrapped both arms around his neck, and used the bigger man as a springboard to launch himself at Nanami. Nanami swung. Chicken. Mid-air. The blade passed under the falling hen. Reformed before landing sweeping kick took Nanami's legs out from under him. Nanami hit the floor. Mahito stomped down. Nanami rolled. The stomp cracked concrete. Yuji re-entered with a running punch. Mahito ducked chicken for a split second to drop his height, reformed into an uppercut that caught Yuji under the chin. Bok crack. The sound of a chicken noise cutting into a devastating uppercut was the most wrong thing anyone in that corridor had ever heard. Mahito could transform whenever he wanted. He just did it. Curse, chicken, curse, chicken. Any time. Any moment. He was fighting in the gaps between transformations, attacking in human form, vanishing into poultry the instant anyone countered, then reforming at an angle nobody expected. Nanami's blade would be millimeters from Mahito's neck. Chicken. Gone. Reformed behind him. Elbow to the spine. Todo would clap to swap. Mahito would chicken during the swap, meaning Todo was switching positions with a hen that was already moving. By the time he turned around, Mahito had reformed somewhere else entirely. Yuji threw a 4-hit combo. Connected once. Twice. Chicken. Third and fourth punches hit air. Mahito reformed above him, having jumped mid-chicken, and came down with a heel drop to the crown of Yuji's skull. "He's got no openings anymore," Nanami said, wiping blood from his lip. "Every time we commit, he transforms. There's no window to exploit because he chooses when to shift. How do we fight something that can become a chicken whenever it wants?" Yuji yelled. "We overwhelm the decision-making," Todo said. "Attack from enough angles that going chicken doesn't help because there's no safe place to reform." They tried. All three at once. Converging from 3 directions simultaneously. Mahito went chicken. Slipped between Yuji's legs. Reformed between Nanami and Todo while both their attacks were committed to the space he'd just left. Landed a palm strike on Nanami's chest and a kick on Todo's knee in the same motion. "Bok bok," Mahito said, mid-reform, mid-attack, grinning like something that had found a cheat code for reality. Near the collapsed vending machine, something shifted in the air beside Sabas. Something heavier. The kind of presence that made you want to sit up straight and reconsider every choice you'd ever made. Sabas looked to his left. A man was standing there. Old. Toga. Sandals. Bald. The kind of beard that had been grown specifically for stroking while making someone feel stupid. The kind of face that had been asking unanswerable questions since before most civilizations figured out plumbing. Socrates. The Socrates. Standing in Shibuya Station. Radiating aura. Pure, undiluted, philosophical presence. The light from a cracked ceiling panel hit his bald head at the exact angle to produce a golden glow that had absolutely no reason to exist underground. The Sunkiss method. Fully deployed. Behind a pillar, Piccolo's head snapped around so fast his neck cracked. Gohan. Write this down. Gohan's pen was already moving. Writing. Sabas looked at Socrates. Socrates looked at Sabas. Two beings who had no reason to be in this dimension acknowledging each other the way people do when they both showed up to a party neither was invited to. You gave the patchwork creature a barnyard animal technique, Socrates said. His voice was like gravel filtered through 1,000 years of being right about everything. Yet. Why? Entertainment. Socrates nodded slowly. Like this was an acceptable answer that he was going to philosophically dismantle anyway. If you are entertained, Socrates said, then what are you without entertainment? Sabas opened his mouth. Closed it. Opened it again. Bored. Is boredom the absence of entertainment? Or is entertainment the avoidance of boredom? And if one creates entertainment from nothing, he gestured at the chicken fight, does that make one a creator? Or merely a creature fleeing from its own emptiness? Sabas's brain hurt. Bro, I just wanted to see a chicken fight a sorcerer. Socrates smiled. The smile of a man who had made smarter people cry with questions. He raised his hands. Pressed his palms together. Domain expansion. Malevolent questions. A marble amphitheater materialized around them. Rows of empty stone seats. A podium at the center. The sky above was open, pure Mediterranean blue. Warm. And from every surface, questions radiated outward. Not attacks. Questions. If you are entertained, then what are you without entertainment? If a man can do anything, why does he choose to watch others suffer for sport? Is the chicken a metaphor? And if so, for what? You gave a volcano a fruit and a zombie a heart. What did you give yourself? The questions settled into Sabas's brain like relatives who show up unannounced and start going through your fridge. This is the worst domain I've ever been in, Sabas yelled. The unexamined life is not worth living, Socrates replied from the podium, golden aura blazing. I don't want to examine anything. Why not? Because. Is that answer itself not worth examining? Sabas grabbed his own head. The domain's sure hit wasn't damage. It was thought. Forced introspection. Every question burrowed deeper. Why was he here? What was his purpose? Was he? He snapped his fingers and shattered the domain like glass. Socrates stood calmly. Hands behind his back. Not surprised. Domains are temporary. Questions are eternal. You'll think about what I asked eventually, Socrates said. No, I won't. You already are. I hate you. Socrates gave him the sun-kiss nod. Golden light on bald head. Then he walked away. Down the corridor. Into the dark. Sandals slapping concrete. Gone. The fight was ending. 3-on-1 was still 3-on-1, and even with the chicken, Mahito couldn't keep up forever. Not because the ability had a limit, it didn't. But because Todo, Nanami, and Yuji had stopped trying to hit Mahito and started hitting where Mahito would be. Todo clapped. Swapped himself with Mahito. The curse appeared directly in front of Nanami, went chicken instantly. But Nanami wasn't swinging. He was waiting. Blade held low. Yuji was behind where the chicken reformed. Already there. Already swinging. Mahito shifted back to human and Yuji's fist was occupying the exact space his jaw was reforming into. Black flash. Black lightning split the corridor. Mahito's body crumpled. His arms deformed. His chest caved. He hit the ground. Tried to chicken. The transformation started, feathers sprouting, body shrinking, and Todo stomped on the half-formed hen before it finished. Mahito reformed under Todo's boot. Human. Pinned. Beaten. He stopped grinning. He ran. Mahito fled. Just running. Down the corridor. Around a corner. And stopped. A figure was standing in front of him. Long black hair. Stitched forehead. That smile. Kenjaku. Oh, Mahito, Kenjaku said. You look terrible. Mahito backed up. He could feel it. This wasn't rescue. Don't. Kenjaku placed a hand on Mahito's head. Cursed spirit manipulation activated. Mahito's body seized. His form wavered. Everything he was idle transfiguration, the chicken, all of it was pulled inward, compressed, consumed. Mahito vanished. Yuji arrived at the corner just in time to watch. Nanami and Todo behind him. Kenjaku looked at them. Smiled. Dropped a small object on the ground. Cursed objects across Japan began to unseal. Kenjaku walked away. The sorcerers couldn't stop him. Shibuya was over. On a rooftop above the station, Sabas sat with his legs dangling over the edge. Cape doing the thing. Watching Kenjaku's figure disappear into the night. This world's cooked, Sabas said. He leaned back. Looked at the sky. The fires of Shibuya reflecting orange against the clouds. I'll be back though. Pretty sure Blood with the pink hair's got a kill order on him now. Give it a week or two, someone's gonna come try to smoke him. He scratched his chin. Might be worth watching. He stood up. Stretched. A portal opened beside him. Sabas looked at Shibuya one last time. If you are entertained, then what are you without entertainment? Shut up, Socrates, Sabas muttered. He stepped through the portal. Hit that collection, Power Stone, and comment down. Also join the Discord. YK might make +1 chapter in the Discord first then here. ht/discord.gg/zgta6x. Chapter 17, The World's Greatest Fraud. The portal spat Sabas out into open air. Blue sky. Salt air. Ocean in every direction. He was on a small, gloomy island with a gothic castle and dead trees. New world, Sabas said, Cape settling. Let's see what we're working with. He walked toward the castle. Past some aggressive-looking monkeys with swords who took one look at him and decided today wasn't the day. Then he heard something from behind the castle. Soft. Rhythmic. Like brushing. Sabas crept around the corner. Dracul Hawkeye's my hawk, the world's strongest swordsman, wielder of one of the 12 supreme-grade blades, a man whose name alone made pirates reroute their ships, was sitting on a rock behind his castle. With a paintbrush. Painting his sword black. Yoru, the legendary Black Blade, the weapon that had clashed with shanks and split icebergs, was propped against a tree. And my hawk was sitting next to it with a small tin of matte black paint, carefully touching up a spot on the flat of the blade where the color had chipped. There was a smudge of black paint on his cheek. Sabas stood at the corner. Mouth open. Brain processing. The world's strongest swordsman paints his sword black. What a fraud, Sabas whispered. He pressed both hands over his mouth. His chest shook. A snort built inside him like a sneeze that wouldn't commit. Don't laugh. He's painting a supreme-grade blade with a brush from a hardware store. Don't. A snort escaped. My hawk's hawk eyes snapped toward the corner. The paintbrush stopped. For 1 second, something crossed the world's strongest swordsman's face that had never been there in the history of the Grand Line. Panic. Then the paint tin was behind the rock. The brush was gone. Yoru was in his hand. And my hawk was standing at full height, hat shadowing his eyes, blade ready, looking exactly like the world-class killer he was supposed to be. How long, my hawk said, have you been standing there? Long enough, bro, Sabas wheezed. My hawk swung. No warning. Yoru came forward in a horizontal arc aimed at Sabas's neck, the kind of casual slash that split galleons. Sabas raised his fist. The blade stopped against his knuckles. My hawk's eyes widened a fraction. Mihawk pulled Yoru back. Settled. Chill bro, Mihawk said, his composure cracking at the edges. Stop using haki. I don't know what haki is. Then draw a sword. I don't fight unarmed men. Sabas looked at his fist. Then at Mihawk. Then at Yoru. Ite, say less. He reached into somewhere and pulled out a sword. The blade was crooked. The edge was dull. The guard was lopsided. The handle was wrapped in duct tape. There was a sticker on the flat of the blade that said "Cool Sword" in Comic Sans. Sabas held it up with both hands. Proudly. Mihawk looked at the sword. His golden eyes traced the blade. The crooked edge. The duct tape. The sticker. His mouth twitched. Then Dracul Mihawk, the most composed man on the Grand Line, the swordsman who had never once lost his composure in battle against any opponent, started cackling. This is Mihawk upscale, Mihawk wheezed, pointing at the sword. Sabas lowered the sword slightly. Yo, it's not that. Mihawk straightened up. Wiped one eye. Took a breath. His face went from cackling to stone cold in under a second. The switch was instantaneous. Like flipping a light off. He raised Yoru. One swing. Sabas didn't see it. He didn't see Mihawk move. Didn't see the blade. Didn't see the air split. Didn't feel the slash until he was already airborne, launched off his feet, cool sword shattered, cape torn, body ragdolling through 3 dead trees before hitting the side of Mihawk's castle hard enough to leave a Sabas-shaped dent in the stone. He slid down the wall. Hit the ground. Face first. The cool sword sticker fluttered down from the sky and stuck to the back of his head. Sabas lay in the rubble. He got one shot. Dented into a castle wall by a single swing from a man who had gone from laughing to lethal in the time it took to blink. Mihawk rested Yoru on his shoulder. Looked at the Sabas-shaped hole in his wall. Then at the shattered remains of the cool sword on the ground. He turned around. Walked back to his rock. Sat down. Picked up the paintbrush. And went back to painting. Chapter 18, Ratatouille. Mary Gosa. The Holy Land. Top of the Red Line. The place where the people who run the world sit in fancy chairs and pretend everything is fine while the ocean below them burns. The doors to the chamber of the 5 elders opened. Shanks walked in. Red hair. 3 scars over his left eye. Black cape. The kind of walk that said "I belong here" despite being a pirate with a 4 billion bounty who should have been arrested the moment he stepped on government property. The Gorosei sat in their usual positions. 5 old men who collectively looked like a law firm that had been open since before the Void Century. Red-haired Shanks, one of them said. You again. Shanks stopped in the center of the room. Looked around. Then snapped his fingers like he'd just remembered something. I nearly forgot. His body shifted. Not like a devil fruit transformation. Like a disguise coming off. His frame shrank. His limbs thinned. His red hair stayed but his face elongated, his nose twitched, his eyes went beady and small. A tail sprouted from behind his cape. Whiskers appeared. Where red-haired Shanks had been standing was now a 4-foot-tall rat. A rat with red hair. The red-haired rat. He adjusted his tiny cape. Scratched behind one ear with a back paw. Twitched his whiskers. Right, the rat said, in Shanks's exact voice coming out of a rodent face. Updates. The Gorosei didn't react. This was normal for them. This was a Tuesday. There's a new one, the rat said, pacing on all fours across the marble floor. Some brat showed up on Mihawk's Island. No bounty. No crew. No name I could find. And Mihawk had to try. The room went quiet. One of the elders leaned forward. Mihawk had to try? Against an unknown. Perfect Mihawk upscale, the rat said, nodding. Blood pulled out a sword, some busted thing with duct tape on it, and my hawk still had to swing Yoru. Didn't use the little cross knife. Went straight for the real blade. That means this unknown forced the world's strongest swordsman to take him seriously. I mean, he one-shot the guy after, but still. The rat sat on its hind legs and scratched its chin with a tiny paw. I don't know where he came from. No devil fruit I could sense. No hacky signature I recognized. He just showed up, caught my hawk painting his. The rat stopped. The Gorosei stared. Painting his what? One of them asked. Nothing. Forget I said that. Moving on. One of the elders stood. The tall one with the dreadlocks. This is irrelevant compared to the larger threat. The Straw Hat Pirates continue to destabilize the balance of the world. Monkey D. Luffy and his crew are the true evil of this era. The other elders nodded. Their influence spreads. Islands freed. Governments toppled. The order we have maintained for 800 years crumbles everywhere that boy sets foot. But fear not, another elder said, clasping his hands together with the serene confidence of a man who had never once been punched in the face. Our Lord and Savior Imusama will cleanse the world with her kindness. Her boundless, infinite kindness, a third elder added. The kindness that erased an entire island from existence, the fourth elder said, without a hint of irony. Truly the most merciful being to ever exist, the fifth concluded. They all nodded in solemn agreement. The rat stood up. Brushed off its tiny cape. Right. I'm out. Got pirate stuff to fake. It scurried toward the door. Tiny red-haired tail dragging behind it. Claws clicking on the marble. At the threshold, the rat stopped. Its body shifted again, growing, expanding, the tail retracting, the whiskers vanishing, the beady eyes widening into the confident gaze of an emperor. Shanks stood at the door. Full height. Red hair. Back to normal. He looked over his shoulder. Keep me posted on the duct tape kid, if ya can. Shanks said. Then he walked out. The doors closed behind him. The Gorosei sat in silence. Should we investigate the unknown? One asked. No, another replied. Imusama's kindness will handle it. They nodded. The kindness that erased islands. Truly, the world government was in good hands. New chapter is coming soon. Write a review.